The agenda. I want to welcome everyone to our council meeting. I'd like to remind you, if anyone is interested in speaking to the council, you can fill out a blue sheet that was at the entrance of the door when you walked in. Get up to the council clerk. We'll be sure to recognize you during the public wishing to address the council. Additionally, any items that are listed under ordinances, we will call for public input at that time on that particular item if you want to speak at that time. However, once we get to resolutions, the only discussion will be held by the council before we move to vote. So those are the ones that you really want to talk about in public wishing to address the council, if you so desire. With that said, we'll jump right into our meeting. On item A, approval of minutes, I'm going to defer the motion on the minutes for the June 13, 2023 regular session to July 11th as they're not prepared. Which brings us to item B, state and or federal legislature. You want a motion on that? Or what if they deny it? What are you going to do? All right, so I entertain a motion to defer to the July 11th, 2023. So moved by Councilwoman Chestnut, second by Councilman Jones. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences, those being Councilman Adams and Councilman Grow. Item B, do we have any state and or federal legislators in the audience wishing to address? None. Item C, we have none, Ms. Carleen. Yes, item D, proclamation. Item 2, proclamation honoring Reverend Eno Joseph Dantin Sr. for his 60 years of devoted service as a pastor. Councilman Lorraine, you have the floor, sir.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, before I read this proclamation, I would like to say that we lost a very good man. He passed away a couple of months ago. He was a pastor. He devoted a lot of his time to the public. And I can tell you this from experience. I knew the man very well, and I know some people that was not doing too well, and after he talked to them, he touched them, and he turned them to God. And that's amazing. And the real thing I want to say is that their church was destroyed by Hurricane Ida. It's still destroyed. They're repairing it. But you know what? They never quit giving to the people in the public food, clothes, and everything. And that's amazing. So now I'll read the proclamation. And I knew him personally and his family, and they're very good people. It says, whereas the Lafourche Parish Councilman Daniel Lorraine, District 9, wishes to posthumously honor Reverend Eno Joseph Dantin Sr. for 60 years of devoted service as a pastor. And whereas Mr. Eno Joseph Dantin Sr. was born on July the 4th, 1935, he was married to Laurie S. Dantin for 68 years, and they had 3 children. And whereas Mr. Eno was a welder by trade, but God had a different plan for him. He took the first pastorate in 1958, and in 1971 became the senior pastor of Lafourche Full Gospel Church in beautiful Bayou Lafourche. He was dubbed the Bishop of the Bayou, where he led the longest running missions conference in the area, raising funds to support missionaries here at home and around the world. And whereas Reverend Dantin served as a pastor for 60 years, serving 2 years in Plaquemine, Louisiana, 11 and a half years in Pecan Island, Louisiana, and 46 and a half years in Lafourche Full Gospel Church in Golometa, Louisiana, now known as the Lighthouse Worship Center located in Galiana, Louisiana. Whereas Reverend Dantin retired in 2018, but continued faithfully loving his family and serving the community until his passing on April 19, 2023. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Lafourche Parish Council convened in regular session on June 27, 2023, we do hereby honor Reverend Eno Joseph Dantin Sr. for his 60 years of devoted service as a pastor. In witness thereof, I, Daniel Lorraine, Councilman District 9 of the Lafourche Parish Council, do hereby set my signature and have cause to be affixed the official seal of the Lafourche Parish Council, State of Louisiana, the 27th day of June, 2023, Matthews, Louisiana. And if you don't mind, I'd like to take a picture with the family, and I'd like his son-in-law to come say a few words. Well, maybe you could say the words before we take the picture. I think he took his place.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to come up and we'll just turn the mic on. And if you don't mind, just state your name and address for the record. Also let the record reflect at 17:06 hours, Councilman Grohl entered chambers.
Thank you so much, council. Mr. Lorraine, thank you for the kind words. We appreciate all that you've done. My name is Dwayne Malone. I'm a senior pastor at Lighthouse Worship Center in Galliano, Louisiana. My physical address is 138 West 119th. We just got another house. So I had
Very good.
That's correct, huh, honey? East. I'm sorry. I crossed over. I'm now on the east side. It's an honor and a privilege to stand here before you and to hear the honor given to this man that gave his life to people. And I thank you so much for honoring him. His wife is with us, and she's carrying on. She says, we got to rebuild, and her heart's still here. And, the Bible says that casting all your care upon him because he cares for you. Ida really showed how much people care for each other. And we're still caring for each other. When Walmart lights was out, ours was on. We was distributing food. We had a 70K machine that was helping to provide food and clothes. And we want to say thank you for all that the parish did. And we're going to continue on because, there's no room for retirement, although I'd rather retire. But, when God put us in our heart to care for people, we have to do that till we get our reward in heaven. So, Mr. Daniel, thank you so much. Council, thank you. We pray for you. We pray for Sheriff's Department and all the government leaders. And we say thank you, Parish President, for this. And we just love Lafourche Parish. And so many people have been touched. And they have touched the community. They have touched us. And we say thank you for supporting us as well.
Thank you.
The family could come, I'll take a picture.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lorraine. Item E, certificate of recognition, we have none. Brings us to item F, presentations and or updates. Item 3, Parish President to recognize LPG Employee of the Month and or WOW employees for the month of May 2023. Mr. President, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our Employee of the Month this month in her nomination says that she goes beyond her job as an office assistant at the animal shelter. She's passionate about her job, empathetic to others, and is ready to get down to business, coffee in hand, which is always a plus, right? Kelsey has done an amazing work to improve her owner retention in the spay and neuter programs over the past several years, and she calls the animal shelter team to consistent improvement, and we are very thankful to have her here. And if you've ever been to our animal shelter, you know it's not always the best place to be, but the ladies there do a fantabulous job. So Kelsey, congratulations.
Thank you very much. And Kelsey, thank you for your positive spin to our wonderful constituents as it pertains to the animal shelter. Brings us to item G, legal advisor report. We have none. Item H, engineers and/or architect reports.
Yeah, Joe Picciolo with Picciolo and Associates at 115 Picciolo Parkway in Cutoff. On our airport corridor road and bridge project, sea level construction is the contractor. He's continuing to pour. Do I do this? Yeah. He's still continuing to pour the concrete main towers on by Lafourche. He's probably about 50% done with his construction right now. He's also, you can also see that he's pouring the control house foundation and columns. And they're also working on the roadway base. This is after a hard rain. We took these pictures, but he's working on the roadway base from 3235, working his way towards LA1. We're still working with him. His completion date is sometime at the end of next year, at the end of the summer next year. On Nolan Tube Southfall drainage, we're working with the parish. They've recently done some more work on the outfall, working their way towards the subdivision. The Golden Meadow boat launch, so just this past Friday, Outer Limit contractors completed most of the work. They still have a few touch-up items to do, painting of the ramps and some more wood bumpers on the beams on the outside of the thing, but it did come out really good. And the boat launch was open to the public on Saturday. Hurricane Ida, oh, this is a street project. On Road Sales Tax District 2, Road Priority List 2022, we are complete with surveying, and the design work is approximately 80% complete. This is actually the other project. Wrong slide, but so we'll go out for bid sometime in the next probably 2 months once we have DPW review their project plans. The Hurricane Ida storm damage repairs to the bridges. This is for Galliana Pontoon Bridge, Cutoff Lift Bridge, Cote Blanche Bridge, T-Bois Lift Bridge, and the Racing Lift Bridge. We actually did the final inspections on the main structures and signs last week, and we did the electrical inspections this morning. They do have some punch list items, but it's pretty minor, and they'll probably be complete within a week or so. On the Hurricane Ida storm damage repairs to the pump stations, on Twin Oaks Pump Station, we bid that project out for repairs. Norris and Boudreaux Contractors, the low bidder. We issued them a notice to proceed on June 26th, which was yesterday. They plan on moving on site in the next couple of weeks. They have been submitting submittals on the materials they plan to use on the project to us, and we've been working with them to approve that. On the Rita Pump Station, I don't have a picture of that, but the Rita Pump Station, we're working with preliminary arrangements with DPW, and we're working on the permit drawings right now for that one. So the Leeville boat launch received bids on May 31st. Lowland Construction was a low bidder in the amount of $1,126,578 even. We had 6 bidders total. We do recommend you approve that. So this base bid is to basically repair all of the launch to exactly the condition that it was prior to the storm. We do have an option on there to asphalt the parking lot and also to replace the aluminum fishing pier with like a fiberglass grading fishing pier. The asphalt portion came out quite a bit higher than we expected, about $1 million higher, and I don't think FEMA's in favor of doing that, and it's just too much money. The alternate to do the grading in lieu of aluminum on the fishing pier is actually about $100,000 deduct in contract price, And we're probably going to recommend to FEMA to do that. But tonight, I would recommend you awarding the base bid, and then we'll work with FEMA and come up with a change order a deductive change order to change to the option of doing the grading instead of the aluminum pier. I just think that the waves in Ida and in any kind of storm comes up, it's going to pound underneath that solid aluminum fishing pier, and then that's what busted it up the first time. So I think with the grading, the waves will just go through it, and it'll have a better chance of surviving the storm. So, any questions?
Bo?
Thank you, Joe. Well, Leeville's not my area. I did grow up fishing down there. I'm from LaRose originally. And look, you get a hurricane, I don't care if you put stainless steel, aluminum, wood, teak, it's going to get destroyed, right? Pretty much.
I think you're going to have some damage. We're just trying to mitigate and have less damage.
All right, I get it. I guess it's just frustrating as an everyday American when I watch the news. And we sent $130 billion to Ukraine, and we're going to get charged some money for this pier. That's all. But I get it. I know you're doing the best you can, but it just, the numbers mind-boggle me. And this is not just for this, but we fight for everything we got down here. But they're going to Western Union overnight over there. So anyway, thank you.
Mr. Lorraine?
Yes, on the airport corridor, they're behind time, are they on time, or they so-so?
I would say they're a little bit behind time. I mean, they have some chance to make it up in the end. I think as I said before, the real critical path on their schedule is the mechanical equipment, the big shivs and the winches and whatnot. We recently went visit the shop that was building them, and they seem to be making good progress, and their schedule indicates that they're going to be on time. So we'll keep monitoring that as they go.
When I was passing by yesterday, I asked one of the foremans, I guess, where they at right now with the height. He said they're going 30 feet higher than that.
Yeah.
That's going to be way up there. I guess that's for it's got to be a certain height, I guess.
You have a minimum clearance of, I want to say,
For the shrimp boats or whatever.
73 feet
Yeah.
above the water or something. I don't remember the exact number, but
Okay. And on the fishing pier, they're restoring back the pier. Huh?
yes.
Yes. That's the main attraction. If you go over there at 2, 3 in the morning, like I used to do, and you'd be surprised how many people you meet, not throughout just the parish, throughout the state. It's unbelievable how many people use that. And the reason why it's used is very simple. You're going to go there and you're going to catch some fish. You're not going to leave without catching fish. White trout, speckled trout, redfish, drumfish, but you will catch fish to eat. And you'd be surprised how many workers from Fouchon stop there early in the morning when they get off, catch a little meal to bring to their family and to eat. It's almost a guaranteed catch. The resources are there. And I don't care how many hurricanes you get, you can repair it, you could fix it, but something had to hit this floating. And you're going to get a lot of damage no matter what. But it really needs to be put back because people are waiting for that, and they really, really love to go there. And go see how many people use that boat launch. We fixed about 75% of it. So you're going to do the kayak deal and a pier?
We're going to fix everything.
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 Okay. You got about 25% left. The little pavilion that was built held. That wasn't going nowhere. So it's going to be a service to the public and to the state of Louisiana. And listen, I talked to a guy yesterday, a Uber driver from down the bayou, and he told me, he says, you can't imagine how many people come and fly in at that airport at South Lafourche, and he picks them up and brings them to these hotels or wherever he brings them for them to go fishing. He said, you talk about some expensive fishing trips. But people love to fish. But the catch is, and the main thing is, catching fish. They want to catch a fish. They could probably buy one 10 times cheaper, but they want to go catch one. And that's where it's at. But thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Daniel. I like to catch fish too.
Yeah, and I'll say that, you know, as my family and I use both Leeville and the Fouchon boat launches, and for me personally, I don't see the need for a blacktop area. I mean, limestone is more than enough when you're just pulling up to launch your boat, but I certainly would hope that we're doing every effort possible to fortify, you know, everything else there, to where it can withstand a much higher wind load or wave load or whatever. But I also want to just say that it's nice to see something going on with the Nolan Toops outfall. I'm thankful to the parish president. I know we tried before my term, but, you know, so probably 10 years plus to try to get agreements with the landowners and right-of-ways, and we were unsuccessful until the new owner and the parish president was successfully able to get that. And I'm thankful that y'all went to the residents and notified them what was going on with the flyers, et cetera. So I'm very pleased to see for that big subdivision that work's going on. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next? Nope? That's it? Okay. Very good. That said, we'll go right into item I, public wishing to address the council, public hearings, agenda items, et cetera. Ms. Carleen.
Ms. Jenny Redding. If you come to the podium, Ms. Redding, state your name and address for the record, and please remember you have 3 minutes.
My name is Jenny Redding. I live at 109 Main Street, Houma, Louisiana, which is Bayou Blue. The property I'm talking about is on your agenda today, which is 103 Main Street. I have reported this gentleman umpteen times. Nothing gets done. I have contacted councilmen. I've called Mr. Dillon, which I never ever received a phone call back on it. I've got downed trees in his yard from the storm he doesn't take care of. I've got rats, I've got snakes, and I have pictures on my phone to show you how bad it is. Okay? And I will say Mr. Wendell knows him. He knows how bad it is. I have talked to him. Wendy at the Tall Grass, she's good to me. She gets somebody out there, but nothing ever gets done. Nothing. And like I said, he's on your agenda for a camper that is falling down all over the place.
Is that item 16? Is that correct? Okay.
I've called. I don't know what else to do but to come in front of you and ask for help. And like I said, I talked to somebody at Mr. Dillon's office. I never got a call back. And I have been dealing, my husband's been dead 6 years. He's always dealt with this for me. I'm alone now. I'm disabled. I have to hire somebody to do mine. He's disabled. I understand that. But there's no reason for it to look the way it does.
Very good. Anyone got any questions? Mr. Wendell, you have the floor, sir.
I know we've been dealing with this particular property for several years. Now, item 16 says for the demolition of condemned structure at 103 Main Street. Is that cleanup of the entire property?
Anyone from the administration?
And just to let you know, Ms. Jenny, it's the parish government doesn't have the authority just to swoop in the next day and force someone to do anything. There's a process for everything, and we get into a perpetual cycle where certain residents know the loopholes that they can slip through to prolong it or reset the clock. And if it's on the agenda tonight, you can consider it done, because that's
I understand that. He's had yellow tags put on this camper numerous times, and he goes in and pulls them off.
right.
Yeah.
Archie, you had something to add?
Yeah,
Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is the cleanup of the entire property, Ms.
Yeah,
Jenny?
he's got garbage under his carport, which is a fire hazard, that goes all the way to the ceiling.
Yeah, and look, notwithstanding the hurricane stuff, right, we deal with this stuff day in and day out.
There's 3 trees down.
In everybody's there. Typically, it's about a 6-month process, because we have to know, there's so many and I know it's frustrating for us, there's so many legalities in the ordinance. We've met a couple of times as an internal group to try to figure out how to shorten those time frames. We've even gone so far on a couple of these properties, I think who's got the Zalmans? Mr. Adams' district, we've done it in another district where we've gotten the sheriff's office involved and actually tried to bring these people to court. Because to Mr. Wendell's point, they do know the loopholes. They knew how to just clean it up enough where it kind of debates us for a little while, and then we have to come back. So, but it's going to be cleaned up.
My property value goes down because of this. If I want to sell my home, I can't.
And Mr. Chairman, look, the Councilman Arabi and I had a conversation last week about the fact of how many of these things we actually have to do. and the expense to the taxpayer to go do this. And then it takes us years to actually try to recoup our money back when people should just take care of their own
And
stuff.
he's got liens on his property from y'all having to go and do it.
Yep.
But I wish you would see the pictures of this man's home. No, I mean, it's worse. It's worse. You
Okay.
know, and it's just, it's uncalled for. It's unreal.
Mr. Winter, you have some last,
Ms. Jenny, that property will be taken care of if approved tonight. And in the future, as soon as you start to see something that is alarming of that nature, give me a call and we'll address it again.
I've tried that. I have tried that. There was drug activity. I tried with that. Now all of this. I've been going with this for 6 years. I can't go no more.
Right.
I
Well,
just can't.
It's the first time it's on the agenda since I've been here, but we've been working on this probably 3 or 4
Yeah.
years
It's
before.
been
I've
longer
got
than
dozens
that.
of them. I've got dozens of them, so I feel you. It's private property. You can go clean it yourself, just like, you can't go clean it, just like we can't go clean it. It's private property. We can't go on that property as a council or a government, without the proper notification. It takes a long time.
But we're
And they-
to
and-
that point now.
And if they
where we
reset
can
the
go.
clock, but beyond this, they reset the clock and starts over again. It's a brutal process, because it is private property. And 75% of our complaints are neighbor versus neighbor. We know that.
And unfortunately, I'm the only one that comes forward, and I think that's being seen, that I'm the only one calling in, I'm the only one reporting them, because nobody else wants to get involved. But
can
this
ass-
is right next to me.
Yeah, look, we feel
Yeah.
you, we feel for you, and the administration is gonna try to move on that for you, ma'am.
Y'all just don't, I appreciate it so much. I
Yeah.
really, really do.
Very good.
All right.
I think you'll have support tonight. Thank you.
I hope so. Thank you.
Very good. That's it?
now. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Carleen. Okay, I bounced to number 16, let me backtrack. All right, brings us to item J, public hearing and ordinances for ratification. I'll now entertain a motion to open public hearing. So moved by Councilman Melvin, second by Councilman Grow. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passed with 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, that absence being Councilman Adams. Item 4, ordinance establishing a four-way stop at the intersection of Patriot Drive and Julia Street, Racine, Louisiana, Ward 4, District 6, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, installing the necessary four-way stop signs and providing penalties for the violations thereof. Moved by Councilman Arabi, second by Councilman Grow. Would anyone from the public like to comment on item 4? Second call, public, item 4. Last and final call in from the public wants to comment on item 4. Anyone from the council? I will just request the DPW, when you install a four-way stop, because I was involved in a nasty accident at a newly installed four-way stop, that I don't know what kind of protocol we have, if it's cones in the middle of the road or something, but some kind of way we need to make sure, because these residents have been driving up and down there for a long, long time, and all of a sudden there's going to be a four-way sign. I got in a nasty accident, so if there's anything we can do to mitigate the potential for an accident, certainly we appreciate it. No one else has any discussion, we'll bring it to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, that absence being Councilman Adams. Item 5, ordinance rescinding ordinance number 6104 that approved a non-warranty cash sale agreement for property adjudicated to Lafourche Parish government located on East 23rd Street, La Rose, Louisiana, 70373, assessment number 810-249-2401 for a minimum amount of $4,675 and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Moved by Councilwoman Chesson for the administration, second by Councilman Jones. Would anyone from the public like to comment on item 5? Second call for public input, item 5. Last and final call. Anyone from the public wants to comment on item 5? Anyone from the council?
I do.
Mr. Grove.
So these come up every so often. We have a company that vets everything and does proper notification. So they were just unresponsive and all of a sudden said, oh, we want to keep it.
Mr.
Yeah.
President.
So basically, you still have 3 years to redeem it. So these come right at the end of that 3-year period, but there's still a little bit of wiggle room for them.
Okay.
So they get a notice once we go through the process to sell it. And if there's still that wiggle room, then sometimes people go back and redeem it, and we have to rescind the sale.
And it doesn't, I mean, you don't know if this was vacated property and they were just ignoring. I mean, it'll be up for demolition soon?
No, I don't think there's a demo associated with it. I think this was one of the ones where they never paid the taxes, and it's just an empty lot. And we were
Okay.
just going to sell it.
And then, okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
All right. Any further discussion? If not, we'll bring it to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, that absence being Councilman Adams. Item 6, ordinance abolishing the Drainage District Number 1, Drainage District Number 6, 5th Ward Gravity Drainage District Number 5, Children and Youth Planning, and the South Lafourche Beachfront Development District Boards within Chapter 34 of Lafourche Parish Code of Ordinances, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any all relevant documents. wants to move on behalf of Councilman Adams. Councilwoman Shesson moves on behalf of the administration, second by Councilman Jones. Would anyone from the public like to comment on item 6?
Miss Nancy Oden, if you'd come to the podium, ma'am. State your name and address for the record. Please remember you have 3 minutes.
Nancy Oden, 275 Donald Drive, Thibodaux, Louisiana. And I just would like to ask the council if they could answer some questions about the implementation of the March proposals. When do these proposals take effect? When will tax collection change from the current to the new tax base? When will teachers see their pay raises? When will people see the new garbage fees on their water bills? Will or should they all go into effect at the same time? And then if they go into effect at the same time, why would this not also affect the dissolution of the board and its control over Fifth Ward and its monies? What advantage is the parish really going to reap by taking over the Fifth Ward and their money? I understand right now that parish-wide, there's approximately 11 employment shortages in the field people who manage this stuff parish-wide. As of tonight, there'll be 2 or 3 more shortages when the Fifth Ward is abolished. Are we going to have people that are really able to take over this new enlarged area, even though compared to the parish, it may not be considered to be that large? Since the parish plans to administer the funds for the Fifth Ward, does the parish plan to impose any fees for this management that would be used against the balance of the Fifth Ward money that is supposed to be used only in the Fifth Ward? And lastly, even though when the new tax base comes into effect, Fifth Ward's taxes will not change. They will just now not be Fifth Ward taxes. They will go into the parish coffers. But will the Fifth Ward itself reap any benefits from this until the almost $400,000 that was in the Fifth Ward drainage district? Will that money have to be depleted by the parish before we will reap money from the parish collections that go to the parish? If that makes any sense. And that's what I would like to see if y'all could give me some answers to tonight. Thank you.
So that was a lot of questions. I don't know that we have the time to go over all those. And I'm assuming she's speaking against this ordinance, but she didn't clearly state that.
Yeah.
Just a lot of questions. Anyone wants to attempt to add a couple of these?
So very,
Go ahead,
very,
Mr. President.
And Miss Nancy, I think you were at one of the town halls, the one we did in Thibodaux, right? So we went through a lot of this there. The tax changes are going to happen. Sales taxes are going to swap over in October because you can only change sales taxes every quarter, so that's going to impact the 2 road sales tax districts. Property taxes will take effect when you get your tax bill this year. So the members of the Fifth Ward district who were paying a little over 14 mills in property tax for drainage, they're going to see that reduction to 8 mills. That is going to show up on this year's tax bill that you get in December from the sheriff's office. We've already worked through that with the assessor. You guys have already approved that. Several meetings ago, I think you've already levied the new 8 mil tax. So that's on the property tax side. The pay raises for the teachers will take effect when they get their September check. But the way teachers are paid, it's spread out over 12 months. You don't typically get a July check because they're paid a month behind. So they work all of August and get a paycheck in September for the month of August, right? So that'll all go into effect on their September paychecks, but that's administered by the school board, not for us. The garbage fees will begin to go into effect on the January water bills. We've already had some conversations with Wayne, Mr. Gutcher over at the Water District about how that's going to work. We're going to have our proposal to you guys probably at the first meeting in August with the renegotiated contract with River Birch, plus the addition of the approval of an ordinance to basically establish that fee. So that'll continue in January. We will continue to collect the 7/10 all the way through October because, again, sales taxes only change every quarter. and we can't do it in July because of the bond refinancing that you guys have talked about with Mr. Harold and Mr. Jim, and already started that process a couple of meetings ago. There will be no additional fees, Ms. Nancy. I don't know why we would need to collect a fee for anybody on top of that. But as we've noted several times, whether it's Drainage District 5 or Drainage District number 1, those fees or the cash, whatever they have in the bank. Again, District 5 is much different than District 1, right? District 5 has, I think, 3 employees, a machine, a pickup truck, a boat. District 1 is all cash in the bank, right? They just dole out contracts to engineers, or they ask us to do stuff for them. So those funds have to go into special accounts. We cannot spend that outside of the district. I cannot take that machinery in the case of District 5 and send that to Golden Meta to do any work. I can't send it to Buy a Blue to do any work. It has to stay in there. They do have 3 employees, 2 of which are in the audience tonight. 1 employee has already reached out and asked to come to work for us. That invitation has been extended to everybody at a higher pay rate with benefits, just like all of our other employees get. So that's going to be at their discretion, but we're going to have no reason to impose a fee, no reason to it's not like we're going to deplete the funds, right? It's not like we're going to take all the cash they have in the bank and play Santa Claus and go give it out to everybody, right? That money is going to be used to take care of the district. And as I've noted over and over again, whether it's District 5 or District 1, myself, the parish administrator, the public work director would be the 3 stooges if we went through this whole exercise and then let the drainage systems fail and didn't upkeep them, right? And I know we got a couple of landowners in the room, and we can be complete idiots not to keep up with the drainage program they've already had in place, right? Again, why we've extended that option to come to work for us for their employees. We want to retain that historical knowledge. They know the drainage areas, they know the basins. We'd love to keep that up. If they don't, then Darren and the field offices between Thibodaux and Choctaw are going to step up and keep it up the way we've always had.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Melvin.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it, and appreciate the questions. I know I had some questions, some comments from some folks, and they said some employees may not be coming, may be going. I've heard mixed signals, but I know that from what I gather, if they if they were to remain in effect, they just run out of money to keep operating as they are. But the millage, that's a done deal. They won't get a renewal on that, and they'll just keep operating as usual until the funds run out, is my understanding. And I know some of everything they said. They didn't communicate everything with me with the questions they just asked, but I know that some other folks may have had some questions or some concerns about some of these issues, so thank you for answering that. But again, I was just going to say let them operate and run out on their own. That's kind of what I was thinking, kind of how I felt too. Because, people get their raises, they doing this, everything's in motion. I was just going to let them run out.
Thank you, Mr. Melvin. Ms. Lorraine.
I think Bo's right. You said that the new tax that we collect next year, then that starts. What you're collecting this year, let the board finish to the end of the year when this really takes effect. Then you do what you got to do. But all they're asking for, and Drainage District 1 is asking for, is to continue to the end of the year or when this transaction takes over. Very simple. You cannot, even after it's taken over, you cannot take the excavator that they just purchased and bring it to Golden Meta. It's complicated because it's got to stay in that district. That's what a district tax is all about. And that's all they're asking for. Let them, if they run out of money tomorrow, then it's over with. So let them finish their time. When it switches over next year, then so let it be.
So Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Mr. President.
I think the way the ordinance is written, it becomes effective tonight, right? If Mr. Daniel wants to make an amendment to make it effective December 31st of 2023, then so be it.
So you beat me to the punch. Can we do that? Can we make an ordinance, can we make an amendment tonight that states that, and then do you make it specific to drainage district, or you just go ahead and leave the South Lafourche and others in that?
I guess you could leave the reason we did the South Lafourche Beachfront Development District is the port just purchased all the property, so there's no need for it anymore. The Child, Youth, and Planning, they don't meet. They haven't met in, I think, several years. So we just taken them off the books because they're pointless.
So the specific question is, can we, on the drainage districts, there are 3 of them listed here, can we just specifically on those say the effective date is December 31st of 2023?
I say that with the caveat, Mr. Chairman, the only thing that I would ask, and I've said this to the chairman of both the drainage districts, is what I don't want to have happen is that not so much drainage district number 5. I'm going to focus this on drainage district number 1. That board does not, for the lack of a better term, play Santa Claus. And if they have $3 million in the bank or whatever it is, right, they just go piss it away because we don't want the big bad parish, to have the money.
Understood.
Right? That would be my only caveat. And look, we've met with the towns, we've met with the levy district. I know they all have little projects they want to use some of that money for. And I met with Mr. March yesterday. I have no problem honoring some of those commitments. But I just don't want to see us go buy 8,000 linear feet of culvert that's going to sit somewhere because we just don't want the big bad parish to have the money.
No. Listen, they got $3 million, not 5, 3, Drainage District 1. $1 million is allocated for that east side pump station. They know that. So they got $2 million. They just gave Lockport, the city of Lockport, $200,000 at the last meeting. They share this money. They're not going to just throw it away. Come on, you know that. I'll be honest with you, Archie. I've been a councilman for 40 years. And if it wouldn't be for Drainage District 1, it would be tough. They bought just about all our equipment and gave it to the parish, and the parish did the work. But it couldn't get out the district, okay? Some of it did, but it's not supposed to. But anyway, that's what kept us alive. And now it's all being combined. So that's fine, but I'll make an amendment if that's what you want. I think it should wait until the other thing kicks in. When they get their new money and it kicks in.
You want to hold it, let Mr. Groh has something to say, if you want to let him say.
Yeah, I
Go
was
ahead,
just
Mr.
going to thank you for coming and whoever else came. I mean, I think the questions are very valid. Not uncommon for questions that we were fielded, during the election. And I want to thank the parish and Mr. Martin for jumping in front of it and trying to do their best by the town hall meetings. My concern is a little bit different. So these guys and girls, they do a lot of work that people don't see, not in your streets. That the farmers see it. You lean on them when you have a major issue in the neighborhood, then they help. So my concern is, okay, we hire them, and are they going to be responsible for those same duties that they had? Because we fall behind on just sweeping ditches all over, and certainly we have to treat them like a triage nurse. I mean, if somebody comes in with a car accident and they banged up, you're going to treat them a little bit different than somebody that has a broken finger. And we do that with ditches. If there's a need, we jump on it. These guys are keeping the wheel turning all the time, fixing stuff that we don't see to where we don't have to panic like a triage nurse, So are they going to be, I brought that up early on before the election. We say we're hiring these people. Do they know what they're getting paid? Do they know what their vacation is? Is it lucrative? Is there a civil service test that needs to be passed? There's maybe some concerns that they may have on that. Can we assume any vacation they have if it's rolled over? I mean, there's things like that I wish, and I don't need to know. I mean, but that person that's affected would need to know, and their families would want to know. So I just wanted to put that out there with the vacation time and things like that. We're talking about an amendment for December 31st. It just, if we just voted down with the anticipation of them keeping it till their money runs out to be able to finish up any projects they have, make arrangements for if they're going to come to work for us or not, do we come back and abolish them one by one as they come with a $0 balance? Do we, instead of making it December 31st?
If in the case of drainage district, again, 5 and 1 are completely different animals to a certain extent, right? Because of cash on hand.
I understand.
It could take, depending on how drainage district number 1 spends their money, that could take 5 years. 10 years. Right? We're just going to let these boards just continue to just exist and deal with them in 5 or when some of us may not even be here. I mean, I think it was very clear from the get-go that if the consolidations pass, that at some point the boards would go away, right? I'm okay with the December 31st thing because, again, to Mr. Lorraine's point, the taxes are going to swap then, right? And that gives us, again, even if you pass this tonight and it quote unquote becomes effective tonight, it's not like we're gonna say, all right, just never meet again, and we're just gonna start gobbling stuff up. It's gonna take us several months to try to work through this with their auditors to figure out what assets they have. In the case of Drainage District Number 1, there's several investments and CDs that we're gonna have to intake and cash out and swap that money over. I mean, again, we'd have to work with the employees to bring them on. I think in one of the meetings we asked if they had benefits, and I think the answer was no. I think it's just a straight paycheck. So again, I didn't pry that much into that meeting about what they made, but I'm pretty sure it's less than what we pay our baseline equipment operators.
Yeah.
And with the experience they have, they're going to come in as equipment operator 3s, and we would just absorb them. There's no civil service process. We're just going to say, hey, look, guys, we took it over. They were technically parish employees anyway because they're subsets of the parish regardless. So they're just going to get scooped into our system and do the same thing they always do, just Monday through Thursday from 6:30 to 5.
But I'm not insinuating it's a money grab by any
No, I
means
know.
at all, and I know you're not either. But to pass all sniff tests, the only way you're not doing a money grab is if it stays with them until it runs out.
And
we
again,
got to
if-
trust that they don't go buy tons of culverts and things like that. But also, are we looking at, you have this much, and this is what we need done in that district right now that would help? I mean, certainly it's going to go in a different pool of bucket of funds, but then it's going to get washed with the new taxes and things like that. How are they going to know that?
So it's never going to get washed with the new taxes. It's got to stay in that separate fund, separate audit processes. And then if we ever spent that money, right, again, especially in the situation of Drainage District Number 1, right, we took there, to Daniel's point, $3 million, right? That goes into the new Drainage District Number 1 fund that Renita has to set up in Munis. Anytime we give that money away, whether it's the town of Lockport, the levee district, the town of Golden Meadow, we go buy a piece of equipment, we institute a project, we have to come back to you guys and ask for permission anyway. It's not like I get carte blanche to go do whatever I want with the money, or the administration does whatever they want with the money, and we never come back to you guys to ask for approval. We still have to do that. In the case of Drainage District Number 5, I don't think the dollar value is that high. Again, we need to reach out to the auditors and work through that stuff depending on what happens tonight or whenever it happens. But that money's going to go into a special pot, and if we have to buy, these guys spray Roundup and they spray the canals, that money would be used to do those same things. And then when that money is depleted, then we would begin to tap into the other dollars, the new consolidated dollars, to continue to buy Roundup and fuel and grease and mechanic work and all that fun stuff.
In terms of like the organizational chart, are they going to fall under DPW?
They will.
And fall under a separate, are we going to try to keep them separate? My question is, are they going to show up to the barn and say, oh, you got to go cut grass on St. Bernard today? And they'll be like, what?
So,
I got trees down in this bayou that you're not seeing, that I've been knowing. We talked about the historical knowledge that they have. I mean, nobody was better than Mr. Gary, in my opinion, on that. This guy could tell anybody where everything was draining when we had him. You're losing him, he aged out, he got old. But the dude was unbelievable in action, in the field. And you could not argue with him. He'd say, I know it's supposed to drain that way, but I don't,
So look,
These guys are going to show up and be digging beach balls out of the country club ditches. That ain't cool.
No. So I will say this, and I've said this at all the town halls, that if the 3 employees come to work for us, 98% of their work will still be doing what they did before. Now, I'm not going to say that, if we have a 60-foot machine in Lockport and we need to do something very special. I've been very public about the way that their employees are very excellent equipment operators, right? If we need a really good operator to go do something very special, just like we did at Cyprian this last week, we took a group of guys from the different field offices and made one little strike team, right? We may put one of their employees and say, look, can you come to Raceland? Can you run this machine? It's a very delicate issue. We trust you more than we may trust somebody else, right? We may do that from time to time, but 98% of the time, they're going to do the exact same thing they've always done. Again, just Monday through Thursday, 7 to 5.
Yeah.
Instead of, and I know sometimes they work, if it rained on a Wednesday, they'd work a Saturday or Sunday, right? We don't work on that kind of flexible schedule, right? We run it.
Well, we work on the schedule. What time they go to work?
I don't know.
6. What time y'all get off? 4. How many days a week? Okay.
Yeah. So
Same as us. I mean, so there's people that call and, Parish, you get, and I don't think we like that, but, come to work, they get the machines at the barn, they go, they drive, I mean, half of them think they should be cutting the whole way they're going, but the thing is, they gotta take a lunch break, I mean, and then they get off at 4. I mean, the work day's done in certain days, but, and look, we have hard workers. I'm not accusing
No doubt,
anybody at
we
any
do.
Barnes for doing that, and I've been grateful for ditches being cleaned out by expert crew from Lockport, that came in or did work at late in boat launch, I mean, I know how we do mobilize, and I don't think anybody argues that they should be doing something over there, but I just want to make sure that that we're handling this with kid gloves, because it is a very sensitive thing, and you're going to lose that historical knowledge if we don't treat them extra special. I mean, we treat all our employees good, but we got to make sure that we are making sure we're taking care of these people because we need to.
And I'll flip it too, Mr. Groh, to say that, look, in some cases, some of the work they do might be able to be done by inmates now. They don't have the luxury of having an inmate work crew. Can we send some inmate with them to cut some trees somewhere, spray some grass, weed eat something that they would typically do, right? We'd be able to take some of the burden off of them. But we have to have those discussions, which we kind of sort of had in one of the meetings with the 2 employees and a couple of the landowners that showed up with me and Mr. Martin. But I didn't want to get too far into those discussions until we figured out what was going to happen here. Because if you're not going to dissolve the board, then I'm not going to have those discussions. But if
Let the
we do-
record reflect that Councilwoman Chesson stepped out at 17:52. Sorry.
Oh, you good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Wendell?
It seems that there's still a lot of questions and concerns, and I don't foresee this moving forward too quickly. Unfortunately, sometimes the council has the job of sorting out the wishes of the people, even though some of the people who voiced the concerns and casted it for stuff that was outside of the district they reside in or that they taxed themselves for, which is very unfortunate. Also unfortunate, some of the items were grouped together where fear caused them to pass or fail in some aspects of it. So I think there's still too many unanswered questions. So for the sake of moving forward and discussing this some more, I'd like to make a motion to the floor to remove the 3 drainage districts from this ordinance so we can dissolve what needs to be dissolved, continue the discussion about it, and if I need to sponsor it next meeting or whatever, to set up a December date or a September date or in 5 years when the money runs out date, I'd be willing to do that, but, we definitely need the board to change or the board to dissolve once we start taxing in a different way. But I still think there's some unanswered questions by the people, by the employees, by us as government on what you're going to get paid, what this, that, and the other. So maybe now that we know that we're leaning towards a change with the board, we can have those discussions and have a more finite plan of when we're going to do it, how we're going to do it, and how it's going to be done. So I guess my amendment from the floor, and I'll put it in writing for you, Ms. Corleen, before I go, is to remove drainage district number 1, drainage district number 6, and 5th Ward gravity drainage district from this ordinance so we can proceed with approving or denying this ordinance. And then I'll sponsor the one when we come up with the specifics on those drainage districts.
So
Once
Jim, Mr. Chairman, if I can.
Go ahead, Clarity, go ahead.
I would ask you to leave, at the very least, number 6 in there, because they don't even have board members. We
Then
always
that's
constantly
fine.
run ads.
1 and 5, remove 1 and 5, and if
hold on,
somebody seconds it.
I was going to ask you to leave 1 in there too, because we're not dealing with employees in 1. We're just dealing with cash. I mean,
Okay.
but no, to Mr. Wendell's point, if we're worried about employees and pay, then all we need to be concerned with is 5.
So, Mr. Wendell, we're going to need clarification on your amendment. If you want, can you restate or can you write it down? We're going to need it written anyway, so for it to have good clarity.
You got a pad? A pad.
Saying tight, because we have a motion, right now we have a motion for an amendment, so we need to act on that first before we do any more discussion or anything else.
Can I ask my question?
So you taking out 1 and 5?
He's going, I'll read the amendment that he makes, Mr. Daniel, then I'll ask for a second for that motion, and then we'll have public discussion on that amendment only, and then council will discuss that amendment, and then we will go back to the original
And
ordinance
have
as
more
amended.
discussion, because I
That's
need to
correct.
discuss that beachfront. Tell y'all some things y'all don't know.
Yeah, right, so right now we're on an amendment, yeah. Okay, so we currently have an amendment from the floor from Councilman Wendell saying to remove Drainage District Number 1 and Fifth Ward Gravity Drainage District Number 5 from ordinance number 6. Is that your amendment, sir?
Yes, sir.
Can I get a second for that amendment? Anyone wants to second that amendment? Mr. Araby seconds that
One and
amendment.
six,
So
sir.
now we're going to have discussion on the amendment. So the discussion right now is the removal of Drainage District Number 1 and Drainage District Number 5. That's the discussion. Anyone from the public would like to comment on the amendment to remove Drainage District Number 1 and Drainage, and Fifth Ward Gravity Drainage District Number 5? You want to discuss at this time on that?
I wanted to talk about the Fifth Ward drainage. Now it's changed.
So this is removing those two, so anything you would say positive in favor of keeping it would probably be beneficial to speak at this time.
Okay.
Just state your name and your address for the record, please.
My name's Mark Nakan from Thibodeau. I live on 143 Rue Chateau. I had wanted to write something tonight, but I had eye surgery, so I couldn't even read it. So I got to come from the heart and gut. And I farm sugar cane in Thibodeau, and I'm a business owner. And I've been around the Fifth Ward Drainage District for many years. And I would have to say from 77. And the Fifth Ward Drainage District was established about the same time as the South Lafourche Levee District, around 65, 68. And a lot of names I might name that none of y'all have a clue who these people were way back. But you know, the people down in South Lafourche had a vision of creating a levee district to, for the people in that district, to save the land and from flooding. And look where they at today. Mr. Wendell has created a wonderful, district and done all the right things. And you would never think this board or council would think about getting rid of the levee district, okay? So here, all these years went by with the Fifth Ward Drainage District, and they did like the South Lafourche Levee District. They had their local people vote to create their district. And just like the South Lafourche Levee District, they got their money and they bought a drag line. And they started digging. And they, the Fifth Ward drainage is a little unique, just like the South Lafourche Levee. We have to control all the water coming from Donaldsonville, Napoleonville, Maywood. And it has to come through Fifth Ward. Fifth Ward is from the Assumption line to the crossing. So, and as time went on, the local people, just like South Lafourche Levee, they voted to renew their tax. And as they did that, they bought more equipment. They was able to go from drag lines to excavators. And then they bought tractors and they got boats. And I want to let you guys know that the Fifth Ward Levee District, Fifth Ward Drainage District, is like the little brother of the South Lafourche Levee District. This is a first-class operation. There is no wasted tax money whatsoever. And it's they got their own accounting firm. All the equipment is first class. It's all running. It's no junk. They are not doing nothing unethical. So
that's the end of his time. Someone wants to give a little more time? Okay, Mr. Grover, relinquish a little bit more time,
okay.
sir. You can wrap
So
up.
I'm
And once again, we're
I
talking
have a
about
lot I could say,
Fifth
but
Ward.
I know I want to say that these guys done a fabulous job for the people, and I don't want it to go down and be dissolved like they wasn't doing their job, because they was really efficient. And they working, and right now we have a project that they're ready to move on. It's a mitigation project that they wanted to close 4 servitudes. And us, the landowners, got attorneys and engineers. And as of last Thursday, I got a call that they are ready to start on the project. And it's a massive project, and it's going to benefit many, many people. And we had some servitudes that were closed 20 years ago that the Corps of Engineers has approved permitting to open these drainage districts, which is going to help thousands of acres and a lot of people. And I know the administration wants to do the right thing, but I feel that we don't want to dissolve the Fifth Ward Drainage District. It would be better to expand it. Thank you.
Thank you. So any further public comment on the amendment? You have no one else, Ms. Corwin? Okay. Second call, public comment on the amendment. Third and final call from anyone from the public like to comment on the amendment. This is removing Drainage District 1 and Drainage District 5 from this ordinance and all its related wordage therein. Anyone from the council? Mr. Wendell.
I'd just like to respond. Thank you for talking, sir. And I don't think anybody has any ill intentions towards the drainage district. It's just unfortunate that we're left to sort out something that somebody else decided on. I think if we can get a little bit more clarity as far as what's going to happen to the money, when it's going to happen, and things like that, everybody will just feel a little bit better about it. The way that this vote went down with the districts, the road districts, everything that was on the election, you could live in one of 5 or 6 different places and it affected you differently. And I think some of the information that was put out, not intentionally, but if you heard something from South Lafourche, it may not have affected you, in North Lafourche or the same thing. And I still think there are too many stories going around about how something's going to affect somebody, and there's still a bunch of misinformation. So maybe if we can communicate, if administration can communicate with the board and get everything worked out where everybody has a finite understanding of this is what's going to happen, this is when it's proposed to happen, because the board's going to have to be dissolved eventually, because we're going to tax it in a different way. But if we can just say this is how the money's going to go, and everything that President Chasson explained, but have it drawn out to where everybody understands, and there's no whammies hidden anywhere, I think it'll do better. So maybe if we can remove this portion of it, if this passes, and address it next meeting or the meeting after, once we work out a few more details, I think it'd be better for everybody.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm going to ask you guys just straight up, what more information do you want? Specifically to you, Jim. So we're going to have to set up a special account. We've told you guys that. The money from the districts has to go into the account, has to be spent in the district account. I guess, yes, we have to answer some questions about whether their 3 employees want to come work for us, but that's an internal administration discussion, right? If they want to come to work for us, we'll hire them. If they don't want to come to work for us, then we won't hire them. I'm just curious, what is left out there that you don't know that you would want to hear before we bring this back up next meeting? Because we could beat this dead horse for 7 or 8 meetings. I mean, you're always going to have the people from District 1 and District 5 that don't want you to dissolve the board because they want the local control. I completely understand that, right? I get it. But I don't know what else what you would want me to explain that we haven't already touched on.
Right, and I know some things are administrative things and some things out of the council's hand. I really don't want any questions answered. I mean, it's not in my district, but I've gotten several phone calls recently, at the time we did it before, where we voted. And, I mean, maybe contact the employees and let them know. Maybe put out a schedule of dates of, we just discussed if it's going to be December 31st or if it's going to be September based on.
So we've done that. We've met with both chairmen and the vice chairmen of each one of the drainage districts and communicated this to them. If they didn't communicate that to the rest of their board or their employees, that's not my fault. I don't, and again, if we want to kick the can to December 31st or you want to let them run out of money and they last 5 or 6 or 10 years, I'm literally just politically tired of fighting about this, right? The people decided, they voted to consolidate. We have to dissolve the districts at some point. If you don't have any other questions that we have already answered and we've told the districts, then what are we doing an amendment for?
I'm tired of debating it as well. And
I'm not
I
mad at
don't
you.
know
I'm not
if
mad
ma-
at anybody. I'm just trying to figure this out.
I don't know if maybe the people, whether it's the employees, the residents, the whatever, get these answers from the board if it's been provided to them. So the amendment was to remove it, remove the controversy, carry on with business, get the controversy resolved, and I'll put it back up there. If Carlene wants to put it back on there for next meeting, just to give 14 days or 30 days or whatever the wait time is gonna be, so that certain folks can go back and talk to the board or whatever it needs to happen, so that everybody feels comfortable with it, I'm willing to do that as well.
So they would have to come back from the administration with you sponsoring, but it would have originate with the administration.
But again, I'm going to ask the question, Mr. Chairman. If we've already answered these questions, and the board or the members of the public, or certain members of the public don't want it, they're going to continue to come and say we don't want it, then how many times are we going to have to bring this back?
Right, that's gonna come to a point in time where.
Somebody's got to
Right.
proverbially get off the pot, right? I mean, I don't know if that's tonight or 2 weeks from now. I'm just trying to.
My preference, and I'll just quickly say, because I know Councilman Grove's up next, but it was that to have a transition period. I know the election just happened in March. The end of the year for me would have been great for these two specific ones. That's me personally. Councilman Grove.
I understand the deal is the vote happened. You can argue, why do people from this pod vote for stuff down there? I get all that. And people down the bayou voted to abolish something down North Lafourche. It happened, and it was legal because it's a parish-wide tax initiative. That's the simple answer on that. The thing we're talking about is a handful of employees, and they're very valuable, just like all the other employees that work for the parish, We're trying to figure out what we're doing with the money. Can the money stay in the district? The best way to let it stay in the district is let it run out for District 5. That's it. That's so I agree with having a deadline on December 31st, maybe. Also, Knock just stood up here and said they shovel ready with a big project. Are we ready to engage in that project? Are we going to have the manpower to keep working that project? Do we have the funds do they have all the funds for the project? Or they were hoping on the tax money? So, all right, so they shovel ready. They start this thing and the money runs out, or we end in December, or we'll be halfway done with the 4 canals that we're digging. Are y'all aware? Is our DPW department aware of that project? That's the questions I have. It's not about the public. There was a lot of outreach. If you missed it, you missed it, If they lost a lot of votes in Central Lafourche and they won in a certain area, it was a parish-wide initiative, and it's going to be, I trust it's going to be lucrative for business, but we got to keep water out of people's houses, and we got to keep these ditches flowing. So, are we doing this amendment, or what?
The amendment's
what are we
on the
doing?
floor. As a second, we're going to vote on this
All
in a
right.
minute. We're just discussion, so I think we're clear on yours.
Administration, do you have any input as to, is it a flip a coin? Like, it doesn't matter if we stop it in December, or if we pull it out, are we going to have this conversation in 2 weeks?
I think we need to have again, I go back to what I told Mr. Loring to begin with. If we want to set a December 31st date, I think we have to have a drop dead date. I don't think we can just say, we'll just let them run off until they run out of money. Because that could be 5 years, that could be 6 months, that could be 2 weeks.
And if it's unused vacation, you got to use it by the end of the year anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Which there is none. Hold on, yeah. Mr. Jones had his, Mr. Grove, you finished?
I'm done.
All right. Mr. Jones.
Is there any way we can defer this a couple of weeks to get all this sorted out?
no.
So,
I don't know what there is to sort out.
I mean,
Yeah.
if we get the Fifth Ward to come in
No,
and sit with the administration, because we going back and forth, because in 2 weeks, it's going to be right back up,
yeah.
and we're going to be discussing the same thing.
So let me say
So right
this,
now,
Mr.
we're going to have a vote, because there's a motion and a second on the floor. We're going to have a vote on this amendment to remove those two. So you can either speak in favor of or against that particular amendment right now.
I'm going to say, why don't you vote against the amendment, make an amendment that we set a December 31st drop dead date, and that gives the administration time to go sit down with the districts, figure out the employee issues, and all the other questions they want to ask that we've already answered, but we can work through all of that, deal with projects. We got to do the same thing with Drainage District number 1, right? We got to know where their money's obligated, east side, west side, town of Lockport, whatever, and that gives us, 6 months to do all of that, and when the new tax happens, the new tax happens.
Good. Mr. Lorraine?
Yeah, I just want to say real quick that these boards have been operating since 1968. They've always done a good job. They had guys before them. They had guys before. Look, it's all about money, okay? So why not let the board take care of what they've been doing, finish until the time comes? What's the difference if the board spends it or the parish spends it? The board is going to be real fair, I can tell you, because I make the drainage meetings. And they have supplied stuff to everybody that has come there. The only mayor that was there at the last meeting was Plaisance, and he left with $200,000, some drainage work, some necessary stuff, okay? The mayor of Golden Meadow didn't show up, so he didn't get nothing. And I had a couple of projects, minor. These guys, if you come to them, so that's the difference. The difference is who's going to control the money, the parish or the board? That's where we're at. The parish has a hard time keeping up on all the drainage that they have. Now they want to take on more?
They will. It's voters voted on it. Mr. Melvin?
Yeah, I know the voters voted, I get it. Again, I've just been listening. I have a square at a Fifth Ward drainage district, and my mindset is if people who are been in control of this thing, they have a vested interest because they live there, they sleep there, they cut the grass, they raise their families. I'm not saying the parish has any, nefarious motives or anything, but again, I'll say like Mr. Daniel, no matter who has the money has to stay in that district, number one. Number two, I don't mind as long as somebody's doing it, that's phone calls. I've never had many calls from the Fifth Ward Drainage District. I get calls a lot of other places because they don't have drainage districts. I get it, so I'm supposed to get calls. These folks have been self-sufficient like autopilot. So I don't understand what's the point of just letting them either go put a date or let them run out. I was ready to kill this thing right here, dead on arrival, but here we are because I wasn't consulted with some questions earlier.
All right, any further discussion on the amendment? So I'll restate, you're going to vote on the amendment, which is simply to remove Drainage District Number 1 and Fifth Ward Gravity Drainage District Number 5 from this ordinance. All in favor signify by saying aye. Raise your hand, ayes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the motion on the amendment passes. All nays say nay. Nay. So the motion passes with 5 yeas, 3 nays, and 1 absence. That has some being Councilman Adams. Now, we're going back to the original ordinance. I'm sorry, yay. So I'll state the yeas of Mr. Lorraine, Mr. Araby, Mr. Wendell, Mr. Melvin, and Mr. Groh. Nays, Mr. Otan, Ms. Chesson, and Mr. Jones, and absence being Councilman Adams. Good? Okay, so now we have an ordinance on the floor with an amendment, as amendment. So now we're going to ask for public input on the original motion as amended. So essentially what we're doing is we're voting now to abolish the Drainage District number 6, Children and Youth Planning, and the South Lafourche Beachfront Development District Boards. Is that correct? Everybody clear on that one? Anyone from the public would like to comment on the ordinance as amended? Second call, public ordinance as amended. Last and final call from the public ordinance as amended. Anyone from the council? Mr. Lorraine.
I just want to say that the Beachfront Commission, when we first developed that about 20, 25 years ago, it was real good. And I'll say this. We even had an attorney. Ricky Sheremy knew more about the port than anybody. All the commissioners on the port, anybody, because he lived there. He was born there. He raised there. Lived all his life at Fouchon. Of course, he passed away. So they took the Leeville Bridge and they brought it to Fouchon. Some people remember the Leeville Bridge, some people don't. But they claimed that it always belonged to the parish after. Okay? So then they developed across the canal a pipeline, Chevron. It was a shell road. We had the right-of-way, 4,000 something feet. We gave it to the port because they so sad bought the Kaiway. But I still say we shouldn't abolish the Beachfront Commission. Now, it hadn't been in operation in a while, but let me say this. That commission was very important. After Ricky died, things kind of went down. Then Mr. Al died, who did a great job, Al Danos. He loved to go visit them kids on the beach. Then Kurt Shermy took over, and he died. Then from there, nobody took over. But just because the port has the property, don't mean that we don't need a beachfront commission. I think a beachfront commission would be an asset to the port and the parish. Now, let me say this. They used our bridge for years. For years, they used the bridge. All of a sudden, the bridge depleted. It wasn't any more good. It's got to be torn down. You know who had to pay for that? The parish had to pay to demolish it. And you know where they got the money from? The Beachfront Commission. They had $250,000 in the bank. And they took that to demolish that bridge. The port had all the services all these years with the pipeline, and yet we had to pay to demolish the bridge. So I say that you shouldn't get rid of this commission. Last council meeting, they had people here talking about Lake Buff. Some of you councilmen said, well, you know what we need to do is maybe form a little group and bring it together. That's what that is. Now, I'm going to tell you, it hadn't been in operation in a long time, but it needs to get back into operation. And the board consists of somebody from Golden Meadow, somebody from the port, somebody from the parish. You know, it's split throughout the area. And I don't think it should be dissolved. Now, the youth thing, I don't know much about that. But I can tell you about the commission. I guarantee you, if Ricky Sheremy and Al Danos was still alive, that wouldn't be up there. I promise you.
Thank you, Mr. Lorraine. Any further discussion, Mr. President?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I agree with Mr. Lorraine for once. Ricky knew a lot about the beach. The beachfront, in its heyday, served a pretty good purpose. But now that the port owns all the property, and some of it's going to be a state park, I don't see what having a parish commission to tell the port commission, which is another public entity, what to do with their property, makes a whole lot of sense. That's the reason we put it up there.
Thank you, Mr. President. Any further discussion?
Because we can the board could pass a resolution supporting them to get a bridge for some funding from the federal government. Listen, the port does a lot. The parish does a lot, but the parish helps the port more than what the port really thinks. I'm telling you straight out, that's what it is.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lorraine. Any further discussion on this ordinance as amended? All right, we're bringing this to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed say nay. Motion passes with 7 yeas, 1 nay, that nay being Councilman Lorraine, 1 absence, that absence being Councilman Adams.
The only reason why I voted nay because I didn't think we should get rid of the beachfront.
So with that said, I got a motion on the floor by Mr. Jones to take a 8-minute recess. Is that your motion, Mr. Jones? Second by Mr. Melvin. All in favor signify by saying aye. Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, being Councilman Adams. All right, we have a motion on the floor by Councilman Lorraine to resume regular agenda, second by Councilman Araby. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, that absence being Councilman Adams. With that said, we are at item 7, ordinance declaring property as surplus belonging to Lafourche Parish government, authorizing the disposal of surplus property, authorizing the advertising of surplus items for sale, authorizing the acceptance of the highest qualified bidders, and any remaining items that are deemed to have no value will be properly discarded, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Windle for administration. Can I get a second? Second by Councilman Araby. We have an amendment, which is item A, changing the effective date to immediately. I need a motion and a second on that amendment. So that motion will be by Councilwoman Chestnut, second by Councilman Melvin. With that said, we're now going to ask for discussion on the amendment, which is just basically changing the effective date to immediately. Anyone from the public would like to comment on the amendment? Second call for public comment on the amendment. Third, final call. Anyone from the public comment on the amendment? Anyone from the council? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, the absence being Councilman Adams. Now, would anyone from the public like to comment on ordinance 7 as amended? Second call, anyone from the public, ordinance number 7 as amendment. Last and final call, anyone from the public, ordinance as amended. Anyone from the council? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passed with 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, that absence being Councilman Adams. Item 8, ordinance granting a variance from Lafourche Parish subdivision regulations from Lot 1 not having 60 feet frontage in the division of the estate of Thomas and Miss Sandra Lee as recommended by the Lafourche Parish Planning Commission at their May 25th, 2023 meeting. Moved by Councilman Mel from the administration, second by Councilman Araby. Anyone from the public like to comment on item 8? Second call, public, item 8. Yes, sir. Come on up. Thank you, sir. Much appreciated. So if anyone has any questions, he can answer those. Second call for public, last and final call. Anyone from the public like to discuss? Anyone from the council wants to discuss? Mr. Melvin.
Yeah, Miss Pat called me today. They are approving this variance, so she did call me personally, and she said if she had to come to the meeting, she would, but I said, don't worry, because y'all are for this.
Very good. Anyone from the council wants to discuss any further? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, that absence being Councilman Adams. Item 9, ordinance amending and reenacting Chapter 2, Article 3, Division 2, Section 2-96 of the Lafourche Parish Code of Ordinances as it pertains to bylaws and operating procedure of the Parish Council, board appointments, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any all relevant documents. Ms. Chesson will move on behalf of the administration, second by Councilman Jones. Anyone from the public like to comment on item 9? Second call, public input, ordinance number 9. Last and final call for public input on item 9. Anyone from the council? Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is just changing the way we advertise board and commission vacancies to try to save us some money due to the whole daily comment debacle the last couple of meetings. So we're going to move to strictly just online and then a little advertisement in the paper to direct people to the website.
Yep, it removes the public journal comment, which I read into it, and that's good. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Councilman Adams. Item 10, ordinance providing for a 2023 supplemental appropriation 23-007 within the 2023 operation and maintenance budget and capital outlay budget to set up a budget for the SCADA and control system increase construction funds for investment earnings and fixed shortfalls within the budget, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said transaction as provided for by Article 6 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter. Moved by Councilman Jones for the administration, second by Councilwoman Chesson. Anyone from the public like to comment on item 10? Second call, public input, item 10. Last and final call, public input, item 10. Anyone from the council? Mr. Lorraine.
Yes, I'm looking at this Fund 160 Road Sales Tax District 8. This is to put controls, meters or whatever on the pumps to when they have to pump or don't have to pump.
Yes, it's a SCADA system, the SCDA. It'll allow us to look at pump stations, water levels on.
But the point I'm trying to make, Archie, you're taking money out of road sales tax A, you're taking money out of road sales tax 2, which is legal because it's road, bridges, and drainage. Is there any of this money in 2, you're from the power line south? And we don't have many pumps of the parish in South Lafourche. So is some of this going to be used for the levy district?
No.
No?
It's prorated per the number of pump stations we're putting it on in North.
Because my point is you're taking 210,000 from 210 from each one, but you got more pumps. Ormond has a few pumps from the power line south, but you got more pumps coming this way.
Yeah.
So if you're taking 210 from over there, 210 from here, you might be taking some from over there to come. That's the point I'm trying to make. We have no pumps in South Lafourche, not many. So I don't see why you should take 210 out of 2 if you're not going to use it.
So it's based on it's based on the size of the pump station, how many pumps, how many engines, that sort of stuff. That's why the numbers look equal. It's not an equal number of pump stations.
No, I understand that. But what I'm saying is the line is the power lines. It's still the power lines. It was outvoted now, but this is money, old money.
I'm not taking money from Road 2 and sending it to Road A if that's what you're trying to insinuate.
No, I didn't say that. Now, you see, you're accusing me of something again that I didn't say.
Well, no, I'm
just concerned. I just thought maybe South Lafourche, because look, these people does the parish a great service. You buy the fuel, that's fine, but you buy the fuel for everybody else. So to me, that's null and void. But anyway, that's my concern. I'm going to vote for it. I'm just concerned.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Lorraine.
Mr. Lorraine. I appreciate that.
Any further discussion? There be none, we'll bring it to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. The absence being Councilman Adams. I'll now entertain a motion to close public hearing. So moved by Councilman Jones, second by Councilwoman Shessa. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. The absence being Councilman Adams. Item K, proposed ordinances. Ms. Shessa, you have the floor, ma'am.
Number 11, proposed ordinance to install a caution autistic child in area sign to be placed on the edge of the lot at 212 Wintergreen Street where it is most visible in both directions of that area. Thibodaux, Louisiana, Ward 3, District 4, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, and providing for the placement of a caution autistic child in area sign as stated above. Mr. Melvin. 12, proposed ordinance to install 15 miles per hour speed limit, caution children at play, and speed check by radar signs at the beginning, middle, and end of West 137th Street, Galliano, Louisiana, Ward 10, District 9, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, providing for the placement of 15 miles per hour speed limit, caution children at play, and speed check by radar signs as stated above, and providing penalties for the violations thereof. Mr. Daniel Lorraine. 13, proposed ordinance to install no 18-wheeler signs at the entrance of 3235 at Safari Heights and LA1 at Safari Heights, Cutoff, Louisiana, Ward 10, District 9, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, requiring the placement of no 18-wheeler signs and providing penalties for the violations thereof. Mr. Daniel Lorraine. 14, proposed ordinance providing for a 2023 supplemental appropriation 23-008 within the 2023 operations and maintenance budget to cover the cost of eSports summer camp and 3 golf camps for the summer of 2023, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said transactions as provided for by Article 6 of Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter. Mr. Adams for administration is not here. Mr. Otan, you'll take that?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Otan for administration. 15, proposed ordinance providing for a 2023 supplemental appropriation 23-009 within the 2023 operations and maintenance budget to develop and draft a new civil service manual, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said transactions as provided for by Article 6 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter. Mr. Jerry Jones for administration. Back to you, Mr. Ote.
Thank you very much. Brings us to item L, resolutions. Item 16, resolution accepting low quote of Greenscapes of Louisiana Incorporated in the amount of $1,000 for contracted services related to nuisance abatement concerning the demolition of condemned structure located at 103 Main Street, Houma, Louisiana, 70364, assessment number 01108205550, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Winter for the administration, second by Mr. Grow. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Councilman Adams. Item 17, resolution accepting low quote of Greenscapes of Louisiana Incorporated in the amount of $13,780 for contracted services related to nuisance abatement concerning the demolition of condemned structure located at 100 Central Lafourche Drive, Racine, Louisiana, 70394, assessment number 00412832020, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Araby for the administration, second by Mr. Grove. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Councilman Adams. 18, resolution accepting low quote of Greenscapes of Louisiana Incorporated in the amount of $4,150 for contracted services related to nuisance abatement concerning the demolition of condemned structure located at 123 West 77th Street, Cutoff, Louisiana, 70345, assessment number 0101789-200, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any all relevant documents. Moved by Ms. Chesson for the administration, second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? All in favor signify. You got some discussion? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just, so when we approve these, about, what's the turnaround time? How long it takes for someone to go and take care of it?
60 days.
60 days. All right, thank you. That's what I needed.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, one absence. That absence being Councilman Adams. Item 19, resolution accepting the low quote of Greenscapes of Louisiana Incorporated in the amount of $7,450 for the contracted services related to nuisance abatement concerning the demolition of condemned structure located at 12435 West Main Street, La Rose, Louisiana, 70373, assessment number 01016255500, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any all relevant documents. Moved by Ms. Chesson for the administration, second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Councilman Adams. Item 20, resolution accepting low quote of Greenscapes of Louisiana Incorporated in the amount of $10,580 for contracted services related to nuisance abatement concerning the demolition of condemned structure located at 14561 East Main Street, Cutoff, Louisiana, 70345, assessment number 0102457400, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any all relevant documents. Moved by Ms. Shestle for the administration, second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absent, the absence being Councilman Adams. Item 21, resolution accepting low quote of Greenscapes of Louisiana Incorporated in the amount of $6,250 for contracted services related to nuisance abatement concerning the demolition of condemned structure located at 139 East 65th Street, Cutoff, Louisiana, 70345, assessment number 0102372450, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and all relevant documents. Moved by Ms. Sheston for the administration, second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Councilman Adams. Item 22, resolution accepting low quote of Greenscapes of Louisiana Incorporated in the amount of $3,200 for contracted services related to nuisance abatement concerning the demolition of condemned structure located at 272 Hummingbird Drive, Houma, Louisiana, 70364. Assessment number 0110746879, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Wendell for the administration, second by Mr. Grove. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Councilman Adams. Item 23, resolution accepting the low quote of Greenscapes of Louisiana Incorporated in the amount of $6,250 for contracted services related to nuisance abatement concerning the demolition of condemned structure located at 144 West Bayou Road, Des Almas, Louisiana, 70030, assessment number 0072751400, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any all relevant documents. Mr. Jones will move on behalf of the administration. Ms. Chesson will second that motion. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Councilman Adams. Item 24, resolution accepting the low quote of Greenscapes of Louisiana Incorporated in the amount of $5,250 for contracted services related to nuisance abatement concerning the demolition of condemned structure located at 4162 Highway 90 East, Des Almas, Louisiana, 70030, assessment number 0072753300, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Jones on behalf of the administration, second by Councilwoman Chesson. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Councilman Adams. Item 25, resolution accepting the low quote of Greenscapes of Louisiana Incorporated in the amount of $3,100 for contracted services related to nuisance abatement concerning the demolition of condemned structure located at 167 East 14th Street, La Rose, Louisiana, 70373, assessment number 0102525400, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any all relevant documents. Moved by Councilwoman Chesson, second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Councilman Adams. Item 26 is deferred to the July 25th meeting. Item 27, resolution approving Lafourche Parish government to advertise for bids for Phase 2 of the Alley Door Drainage Improvement Project and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Araby for the administration, second by Mr. Wendell. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Councilman Adams. Item 28, resolution approving agreement between Widow O'Brien's LLC and Lafourche Parish government for contracted services relative to monitoring of disaster-generated debris removal, management, and technical assistance, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Jones for the administration, second by Councilwoman Chesson. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Councilman Adams. Item 29, resolution accepting the low quote of Blue Ant Fence and Shutter Incorporated in the amount of $88,750 for contracted services related to nuisance abatement concerning the demolition of condemned structure located at 18608 West Main Street, Galliano, Louisiana, 70354, assessment number 0101998900, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Lorraine for the administration, second by Mr. Wendell. Any discussion? Mr. Lorraine, you have the floor.
Yeah, is this the Bayou Inn?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, that absence being Councilman Adams. Item 30, resolution approving an agreement with Casualty Actuarial Consultants Incorporated for 2023 actuarial services and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Jones for the administration, second by Councilwoman Chesson. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, absence being Councilman Adams. Item 31, resolution accepting a proposal between Gallagher Benefit Services and Lafourche Parish Government to develop and draft a new civil service manual and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer an agreement and any all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Jones for the administration. Can I get a second? Second by Councilwoman Chesson. Discussion. Mr. Araby.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to relinquish some time to Mr. Cavell to come up here and kind of fill us in on what's going on with this resolution right here as far as the civil service manual.
And Mr. Cavell, if you don't mind, just state your name and address for the record.
Yes, Robert Cavell, 536 McCullough Street, Thibodaux, Louisiana. So I'm here today. I know some council members had some questions about the civil service and the civil service manual. I will have to defer some of your questions to the administration. This is a contract and a proposal that is being brought forth by the administration. I have looked over the contract. I have not been able to discuss everything with the other board members, so I'm only here addressing what, my personal beliefs are as the vice chairman for the Civil Service Board. After reviewing the contract, some pros that I did see was that it was a great price for the contract. I know that when the board had previously done an RFP for proposals, it did come in, the quotes that we did were significantly higher. So I do commend the administration on getting a contract for that price. Another pro that I did like in the contract was the timetable to get the manual completed. I think, this has been kind of going on. I do like the fact that there's a timetable definite that we will have a manual update. I will say that I'm all for updating the manual. I think everyone, my fellow board members, do think we need an updated manual. I think some of the big concerns that we have is we want to make sure that the administration, the employees, the employee committee that had worked tirelessly to bring forth some recommendations, that they have a voice in making this manual. And of course, the administration has their voice. This document is going to serve as a tool for those three groups and bodies, and everyone needs to have a say. And so that's a major concern. That's a question that I have for the administration is, I know some of the concerns are, this contract for Gallagher, they will, the meetings are going to be virtual. Their people will host virtual meetings. My question is, will there have times allocated to not only meet with the administration, but to meet with the employees? Also to meet with the civil service director and some of the civil service board members when compiling this manual. The other concerns that I saw was that another concern that I had was with dealing with some of the references. If you look to their references, they list the key personnel who are all out of state, and the references they list have projects done in Virginia, North Carolina, and Minnesota, which I don't think is a bad thing, but I just want to make sure that the people that are coming in to do this manual update have some knowledge of Louisiana law, how that plays into effect with some of these policies, and make sure they have somebody on their team that understand the legalese of, and the specificities that comes with being in Louisiana. Our law is a little bit different, as I'm sure y'all are aware, and I just want to make sure that they have the staff and support system to go ahead and properly present a good manual. Those were some of the concerns. As I stated, I'm not necessarily coming out publicly in support of it. I'm not coming out and publicly not supporting it. But those are just some concerns that I felt, as a board member, I thought that y'all should be asking the administration before just approving these projects. In full candor, I did talk to Ms. Evanier to address these concerns, so I wasn't blindsiding them coming up here, but was hoping that they can address some of these concerns, and I'm sure y'all had some similar concerns. I'll answer any questions that y'all may have.
Mr. Araby.
Just one of the questions I got, so whenever this is all said and done, it has to go to your board for final approval, then come to the council?
So yes, the manual will have to go to, whatever manual is proposed will need to go in front of the board and be approved by the board. So if there's not input from the board, I don't see it, a lot of it being open and receptive. So, I mean, I'm hoping, and I think, what I've been told by Savanier is that Gallagher will be consulting with the board on this and, getting it through to the board. I don't think it has to go through the council afterwards. I think it's voted on by the board after the manual is presented.
Okay, I was just concerned about that. I just want to make sure that anything that we voted on tonight,
You're voting on tonight to enter into the contract, and
Correct.
then I think there's an ordinance which allows for the funding of it. But I would defer to the administration on that. That's more their realm and y'all realm than what
I just
deal
want to
with
make
on
sure
the
that our
policy.
employees are not overlooked and taken care of, because I'm all about the employees. Thank you.
Yes, sir, and I totally agree. I think, I definitely think there needs to be employee input when coming up with this manual.
Mr. Melvin.
Well, I have a question for mainly for administration, but I know that, for instance, South Central Planning handled our redistricting, and I was a little surprised when I first saw Gallagher, because I'm so used to seeing benefits with Gallagher. And I'm not saying they're not familiar with this sort of thing, but I'm not saying I agree with everything that South Central Planning does when they organize things, but again, I'm just looking, and it seems like everybody's out of state, and I really don't know exactly. I'm in favor of streamlining and making things work better for the employees and administration, and vice versa, because we all know that the optics of some things are civil service. You get people that they show up for work, but they don't work, et cetera, et cetera. We know kind of the things that people say, and I know that there's been some challenges with varying issues, not all on employees, but just, both sides. It's just some challenges. But again, I'm kind of head scratching. I'm just a little nervous about people coming to Deep South Louisiana from Tennessee, Virginia, Richmond. I mean, I got a problem with it.
Thank you, Mr. Melvin. Mr. Wendell.
Just because I'm still unsure, once this manual is redone by Gallagher, the Civil Service Board reviews to approve it, or the council reviews to approve it before it's
The
official?
Civil Service Board only.
Okay, so the council's out of it after this.
Mr. President?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So a couple of things, and I appreciate Robert talking to Savani today. So the proposal does include within the body of it that they will meet with the employee committee that we've been working with for probably 6 or 8 months now. The administration, the Civil Service Board in its entirety, or their designee, whether it's the chairman, the vice chairman, whoever, as well as the Civil Service Director. So it is an all-encompassing realm, right? They're not just gonna take this upon themselves. So to Mr. Melvin's point, the two main contacts on the team are from out of town, right? But they've done work for the Louisiana Community and Technical College System, the same group who's going to work on ours, St. Charles Parish Public Schools, BREC, the City of Ruston, multiple projects within the City of Shreveport and their civil service and personnel systems, Capitol Area Transit, City of Monroe, Louisiana State University, the City of Monroe itself, the Mandeville Fire Department, and St. Tammany Parish Government. The plan is also, once we're done kind of simultaneously while they're working on the civil service side, we have some updates that we need to do to the parish's policy and procedure manual, which falls somewhat in the civil service realm, but deals more with, day-to-day policies versus leave, terminations, hiring, firings, that sort of things. And then it covers the policies for all of the unclassified employees. So the Head Start folks, the people who work in community action, the administration, that sort of thing. So it'll be kind of a dual role there where we make sure all the manuals kind of coincide with each other. So there aren't conflicts, but then that we figure out the issues that I think both sides want to see fixed, right? I know the board has some issues they want to see fixed. The board has told us over and over again that if we want to see changes, then we need to make the changes and bring it to them. So this is kind of us kind of taking that bull by the horns and saying, all right, if the onus is mainly on us, then we're going to go pick the consultant. We're going to input you in, let you have some say-so in the meetings, and then we'll bring the full suite of changes to the board.
Mr. Melvin?
Yeah, just to clarify, so once we pass, or this passes, it goes to civil service and administration, and then we never get to see it again, pretty much? Is that what you're saying? So we don't get to look at some of these things that are recommended?
Yes.
Pretty much? I mean, is that?
You appoint the civil service board members, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's pretty much out of my hands once this passes us?
Mr. Lorraine?
So to be safe, once all this is done, Gallagher administration, everybody who ever participates, it goes to the Civil Service Board. So if any councilman has a problem with anything in there, you'd have to make the Civil Service Board and let them know. Am I right?
From my understanding, yes, that
Well,
is correct. Y'all
There
are
it is.
welcome. We're-
It's finished with the council. But you still got a shot at it if you got something in there you don't care for or don't like, then you make the meeting of the Civil Service Board. Very simple.
My question is, when the RFPs went out, and you guys have really worked hard trying to get this resolved, I know, and I certainly appreciate that, and I recognize certainly the members on that board are very important members of our community, and thank y'all for the service that y'all do. When y'all went out for RFPs, Gallagher didn't submit an RFP?
No. So what kind of happened, and just a brief history, is I know Councilman Jones had brought forth, removing, I think, Section C of the charter, and y'all had given us a year to update the manual. And so that's when we did, the Civil Service Board took that upon themselves to do an RFP. We never did an RFP, but y'all had kind of given us directive to update the manual. So we went out, got the RFP. We had two different entities contact us. It was sent out publicly. Gallagher was not one of those individuals. We selected one. We sent it off to the administration. It was never brought before the council. I think that was when Ida hit. I think from what Archie had said in the council meeting was due to Hurricane Ida, and the money restraints at that time was the reason that I was, what was stated in the council meeting. And then since then, he stated that it would be taken in-house. The personnel committee was formed. They tried to kind of work with that. They took it to the district attorney's office, and there really needed to be a whole overhaul of the system, not just done piecemeal. And that's when this administration just sent this proposal. We haven't had necessarily any dealings with Gallagher as a civil service board. I just noticed it coming up on the agenda. I know some councilmen were asking, where did this come from? And so that's why I was here today, to just kind of clarify some of that for y'all.
I appreciate it. It's been in y'all minutes, and y'all have discussed this at length. And for me, I would prefer, and this is just me speaking, I would prefer that to come as a recommendation from the Civil Service Board. Nothing against the administration, but for me, you guys are tremendously important and certainly knowledgeable. And while I share the same discomforts, if you will, with some things that happen, that employees abuse the system, I fully recognize the protection that it provides for our, so there is an offset. Mr. Araby.
I just want to thank you for coming over here, Mr. Cavell, tonight, taking time out your busy schedule to come out there and share some information with us on that for civil service. And I heard what I want to hear tonight. The parish president did say that the administration, the Civil Service Board, and the employees will be involved along with Gallagher. Thank you.
Any further discussion? There being none, we'll move this to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Motion passes with 7 yeas, 1 nay being Otan, and 1 absent, that being Adams. Is that right? Thank you, Mr. Cavell, appreciate it. All right, and now we go to item 32, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Resolution appointing one member on the Recreation District Number 11 Board. Mr. Wendell, who do you have?
One vacancy, one applicant, Mr. Terry Azu.
Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Lorraine. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Councilman Adams. Item 33, resolution appointing one member on the Fire Protection District Number 7 Board. Mr. Melvin for the administration. Who do you have, Mr. Melvin?
Mr. Jimmy Toludas.
Second, Mr. Lorraine. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Councilman Adams. Item 34, resolution reappointing one member on the Fire Protection District Number 8B Board. Ms. Chesson, can you please offer someone on behalf of Mr. Adams for the administration?
One vacancy, one reappointment, Mr. Leroy Cortez Jr.
Mr. Cortez, second by Mr. Wendell. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Councilman Adams. Item 35, resolution appointing one member on the Recreation District Number 2 Board. Mr. Araby for administration. Who you got, Mr. Araby?
One vacant, one absent, Mr. Chad Alamo.
Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Grove. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Councilman Adams. Item 36, resolution approving amendment number 1 to the agreement between Lafourche Parish Government and ELOS Environmental LLC for coastal restoration and carbon capture utilization and sequestration planning framework consulting, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said amendment and any all relevant documents. Moved by Ms. Chesson for the administration, second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Councilman Adams. Item 37, resolution approving the services of DRC Emergency Services LLC for contracted services relative to private property nuisance abatement of condemned structures to proceed with demolition and debris removal 23-094.5, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any all relevant documents. Ms. Chesson will move up on behalf of the administration, second by Mr. Jones. We have an amendment for this resolution from the floor. So we got an amendment from the floor to item number 37 by Councilman Lorraine. This amendment is to remove a property from the list as stated below and any and all attachments relative to said property. This is removing 130 East 121st Street, Galliano, Louisiana, 70354. The owner handled the demo. That's your motion? We have a motion on the floor, second by Councilman Wendell. Any further discussion on the amendment to remove this one location? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absent, absent being Councilman Adams. Now we're going to vote on resolution number 37 as amended. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absent, absent being Councilman Adams. Item 38, resolution approving amendment number 3 to the agreement between Lafourche Parish Government and GIS Engineering LLC for the project titled Valentine Pontoon Bridge Rehab Project, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said amendment and any all relevant documents. Mr. Araby will move for me on behalf of administration, second by Mr. Lorraine. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Councilman Adams. Item 39, resolution approving amendment number 3 to the agreement between Lafourche Parish Government and GIS Engineering LLC for the Grand Bayou Freshwater Reintroduction Project, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said amendment and any all relevant documents. Moved by Ms. Chesson of the administration, second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Councilman Adams. Item 40, resolution approving a cooperative purchasing agreement between Lafourche Parish Government and Jefferson Parish Government for the purchase of 2 vehicle bodies and accessories for the Department of Public Works, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Wendell for the administration. Can I get a second by Mr. Araby? Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Councilman Adams. Item 41, resolution approving an agreement between Lafourche Parish Government and the City of Thibodaux for funding from the Parish Transportation Revenue Program for the 2023-2024 fiscal year, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Grove for the administration, second by Mr. Wendell. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, that absence being Councilman Adams. Item 42, resolution approving an agreement between Lafourche Parish Government and the Town of Golden Meadow for funding from the Parish Transportation Revenue Program for the 2023-2024 fiscal year and authorizing the Parish President to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any other relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Lorraine for the administration, second by Mr. Araby. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Is anyone opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, that absence being Councilman Adams. Item 43, resolution approving an agreement between Lafourche Parish Government and the Town of Lockport for funding from the Parish Transportation Revenue Program for the 2023-2024 fiscal year and authorizing the Parish President to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any other relevant documents. Ms. Chesson will move on behalf of the administration, second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, that absence being Councilman Adams. Item 44, resolution approving amendment number 1 to the agreement between Gwynn Auction Company Incorporated and Lafourche Parish Government to advertise and auction surplus property and authorizing the Parish President to sign, execute, and administer said amendment and any other relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Wendell for the administration, second by Councilwoman Chesson. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Was that? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 1 abstention, that abstention being Councilman Wendell, and 1 absent, that absent being Councilman Adams. Item 45, resolution accepting the low bid of Lowland Construction Company Incorporated in the amount of $1,126,578 for the project titled Leeville Public Boat Launch Reconstruction, Hurricane Ida Repairs, and authorizing the Parish President to sign, execute, and administer an agreement and any all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Lorraine for the administration, second by Mr. Wendell. Any discussion? No discussion on $1 million? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously with 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 1 absence, absent being Councilman Adams, and a local construction company, which is even
You're
greater.
welcome.
Item 46, resolution approving a cooperative purchasing agreement between Lafourche Parish Government and Jefferson Parish Government for the purchase of 2 single-axle dump trucks for the Department of Public Works and authorizing the Parish President to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Winter for the administration, second by Mr. Lorraine. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence. That absence being Councilman Adams. Item 47, resolution amending resolution number 23-096 that approved the hiring of an attorney and/or their law firm when necessary for the year 2023 to perform any and all legal defense services for Lafourche Parish Government and to provide compensation in accordance with the Louisiana Attorney General's fee schedule and authorize the Parish President to sign, execute, and administer any all relevant documents. Mr. Jones will move on behalf of Mr. Adams for the administration, second by Ms. Chesson. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, that absence being Councilman Adams. Brings us to item M, notice of public hearing and public meeting. Number 48, notice is hereby given pursuant to Article 7, Section 23C of the Louisiana Constitution and RS 471705B that a public hearing of the Lafourche Parish Government General Alimony will be held at its regular meeting place, the council chamber of the Matthews Government Complex, the old Walmart Building, 4876 Highway 1, Matthews, Louisiana, 70375, on Tuesday, July 25th, 2023, at 6 p.m. to consider levying additional or increased millage rates without further voter approval or adopting the adjusted millage rates after reassessment and rolling forward to rates not to exceed the prior year's maximum. The estimated amount of tax revenues to be collected in the next year from the increased millage is $2,287,029.13, and the amount of increase in taxes attributable to the millage increase is $17,003.93. And I can leave this as myself, right? You're not voting on this, correct? Okay, we're going to push this, Ms. Chesson. Thank you for that on behalf of the administration for offering that notice. All right, Ms. Carleen. And it looks like we're going to be paying a lot of money to our official journal. Item 49, notice is hereby given to pursuant to Article 7, Section 23C of the Louisiana Constitution and RS 471705B that a public hearing of the Lafourche Parish Government criminal tax will be held at its regular meeting place, the council chamber of the Matthews Government Complex, the old Walmart Building, 4876 Highway 1, Matthews, Louisiana, 70375, on Tuesday, July 25th, 2023, at 6 p.m. to consider levying additional or increased millage rates without further voter approval or adopting the adjusted millage rates after reassessment and rolling forward to rates rates not to exceed the prior year's maximum. The estimated amount of tax revenues to be collected in the next year from the increased millage is $34,204.77, and the amount of increase in taxes attributable to the millage increase to $4,442.18. Moved by this notice by Ms. Chesson on behalf of the administration. And let the record reflect at 19:14, Mr. Groh has exited the chambers. Item 50, notice is hereby given pursuant to Article 7, Section 23C of the Louisiana Constitution, RS 471705B, that a public hearing of the Lafourche Parish Government Council on Aging will be held at its regular meeting place, the council chamber of the Matthews Government Complex, the old Walmart Building, 4876 Highway 1, Matthews, Louisiana, 70375, on Tuesday, July 25th, 2023, at 6 p.m. to consider levying additional or increased millage rates without further voter approval or adopting the millage or adopting the adjusted millage rates after reassessment and rolling forward to rates not to exceed the prior year's maximum. The estimated amount of tax revenues to be collected in the next year from the increased millage is $1,789,236.95, and the amount of increase in taxes attributable to the millage increase is $26,837.75. So moved by Ms. Chesson on behalf of the administration. Record reflect 1915, Mr. Groh has re-entered chambers. Item 51, notice is hereby given pursuant to Article 7, Section 23C of the Louisiana Constitution and RS 471705B, that a public hearing of the Lafourche Parish Government Health will be held at its regular meeting place at Council Chamber of the Matthews Government Complex, the old Walmart Building, 4876 Highway 1, Matthews, Louisiana, 70375, on Tuesday, July 25th, 2023, at 6 p.m. to consider levying additional or increased millage rates without further voter approval or adopting the adjusted millage rates after reassessment and rolling forward to rates not to exceed the prior year's maximum. The estimated amounts of tax revenues to be collected in the next year from the increased millage is $733,587.15, and in the amount of increase in taxes attributable to this millage increase is $8,946.18. Ms. Chesson for the administration. Seeing double now. 52. Notice is hereby given pursuant to Article 7, Section 23C of the Louisiana Constitution and RS 471705B, that a public hearing of the Lafourche Parish Government Library, 1047-014, will be held at its regular meeting place, the council chamber of the Matthews Government Complex, the old Walmart Building, 4876 Highway 1, Matthews, Louisiana, 70375, on Tuesday, July 25th, 2023, at 6 p.m. to consider levying additional or increased millage rates without further voter approval or adopting the adjusted millage rates after reassessment and rolling forward to rates not to exceed the prior year's maximum. The estimated amount of tax revenues to be collected in the next year from the increased millage is $1,476,120.49, and the amount of increase in taxes attributable to the millage increase is $134,192.77. Moved by Ms. Chesson for the administration. Item 53, notice is hereby given pursuant to Article 7, Section 23C of the Louisiana Constitution, RS 471705B, that a public hearing of the Lafourche Parish Government Recreation will be held at its regular meeting place, the council chamber of the Matthews Government Complex, the old Walmart Building, 4876 Highway 1, Matthews, Louisiana, 70375, on Tuesday, July 25th, 2023, at 6 p.m. to consider levying additional or increased millage rates without further voter approval or adopting the adjusted millage rates after reassessment and rolling forward to rates not to exceed the prior year's maximum. The estimated amount of tax revenues will be collected in the next year from the increased millage is $1,476,120.49, and the amount of increase in tax attributable to the millage increase is $17,892.37. Ms. Chesson for the administration. Item 54, notice is hereby given pursuant to Article 7, Section 23C of the Louisiana Constitution and RS 471705B, that a public hearing of the Lafourche Parish Government Public Building will be held at its regular meeting place, the council chamber of the Matthews Government Complex, the old Walmart Building, 4876 Highway 1, Matthews, Louisiana, 70375, on Tuesday, July 25th, 2023, at 6 p.m. to consider levying additional or increased millage rates without further voter approval or adopting the adjusted millage rates after reassessment and rolling forward to rates not to exceed the prior year's maximum. The estimated amount of total tax revenues to be collected in the next year from the increased millage is $2,227,600.01, and the amount of increase in taxes attributable to this millage increase is $35,784.74. Ms. Chesson for the administration. Item 55, notice is hereby given pursuant to Article 7, Section 23C of the Louisiana Constitution and RS 471705B that a public hearing of the Lafourche Parish Government Library 1047-017 will be held at its regular meeting place, the council chamber of the Matthews Government Complex, the old Walmart Building, 4876 Highway 1, Matthews, Louisiana 70375, on Tuesday, July 25th, 2023, at 6 p.m. to consider levying additional or increased millage rates without further voter approval or adopting the adjusted millage rates after a reassessment and rolling forward to rates not to exceed the prior year's maximum. The estimated amount of tax revenues to be collected in the next year from the increased millage is $3,632,151.01, and the amount of increase in taxes attributable to the millage increase is $948,295.58. Ms. Chasson for the administration. 56, notice is hereby given pursuant to Article 7, Section 23C of the Louisiana Constitution and RS 471705B that a public hearing of the Lafourche Parish Government Fire Protection District Number 7 will be held at its regular meeting place, the council chamber of the Matthews Government Complex, the old Walmart Building, 4876 Highway 1, Matthews, Louisiana, 70375, on Tuesday, July 25th, 2023, at 6 p.m. to consider levying additional or increased millage rates without further voter approval or adopting the adjusted millage rates after reassessments and rolling forward to rates not to exceed the prior year's maximum. The estimated amount of tax revenue to be collected in the next year from the increased millage is $152,314.06, and the amount of increases in taxes attributable to the millage increase is $31,072.07. Ms. Chesson for the administration. Item N, Parish President, Department Heads, Directors, or Manager Reports, Presentation, and or Updates. Item 57, Finance Representative to present the monthly financial report as required by state agreed upon procedures for May 2023. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You guys should all receive an email from us this morning with the monthly financials. Renita's here if you have any questions.
Anyone has any questions of Ms. Renita? There being none, it brings us to item O, questions for the administration. Mr. Melvin.
Yes. Dylan, a couple of times last maybe 5 months ago, I mistakenly sent something to not DPW, but nuisance complaints about some very low branches, almost at the end of in the country club at Fairfield at Holiday. Okay, there's a house on the corner. Now, the folks with campers who used to live around there would call me, and that kind of, sometimes I'm driving a truck, you're just out of sight, out of mind until you have a camper or you're hitting it. These things, I drive a little Tacoma, and these things I want to touch the roof on my Tacoma, so they really need to be trimmed soon. I had sent in 2 more notices, maybe in the last month or so, but I don't know if y'all were just jammed up, but it really needs to be trimmed, because I know other people are hitting them now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Melvin. Someone has Mr. Araby.
Yeah, I got a couple of questions for Mr. Chasson. Kind of give me a little update on where we at with the recreation facilities, not the ground, but the whole facilities that need work.
I'm going to defer to Mitch on that one because he met with all the architects and engineers last week.
Mr. Administrator.
So they're wrapping up the engineering actually on those locations, including the buildings. Hopefully we'll be done within the next couple weeks there, and then we're still fighting with FEMA to get the approvals on all the damages associated with those structures.
I thought you had told me last time I spoke to you that FEMA had approved everything already.
They approved all the damages except what's associated with the light poles.
And Archie, what is the update on the rodeo arena, the new arena we're fixing to build?
That one's loud. The last timeline we got from Duplantis had us set to go to bid at the end of August, and then construction starting in October. We did present the plans to the roping club. They had a few minor changes. We've met with Becky and Randy Lynn at LSU. They had a couple minor changes, and I want to say I didn't go to the cattleman supper last week, but I think Becky was supposed to present it to the cattleman. Not sure if they had any changes, but it's minor stuff. It's like putting, flipping the storage from one side to the other. It was no major structural stuff. So we're still on plan to go out to bid sometime the end of August.
All right. Update on the coroner's office.
That was a part of our discussion with Kevin Groh and Andy's group. Of course, there are several buildings that they have that they're having to do some engineering on. One of the things that we're working through is how we're actually going to go about the actual construction with regards to the office versus the actual autopsy location.
Well, we've been questioning this going on 4 years now. And the prior administration too, and we still haven't no coroner's office yet.
And I think that the thing we need to figure out with some of the staff in the coroner's office is, at one point we had talked about trying to leave the morgue but tearing down the office space, and I don't think that's going to be feasible. They're going to have to find some other place to do some autopsies for a time being and just build the whole structure at one time. So that's part of the process too.
Well, I just hope that we can start seeing some construction going on, especially at the recreation grounds over there, because it's 2 years that we haven't had a facility over there. And I mean, we got one place with just a mind of repairing the bathroom, I guess, or like at the baseball field. So, I mean, I got quite a few calls about that. So if we could put as a priority to try to get the bathroom repaired, one of the first things, so that we could have one bathroom working for the baseball fields over there.
And Mr. Chairman, if I can, I know that's been a constant frustration with a lot of you, right? And I've told this to several people in the community. Have asked, especially when it's come to the libraries. I would have loved, 8-10 months ago when we bonded out that money to kind of cash flow this stuff, to just cut it loose, right? And say, let's go fix everything. Libraries, boat launches, recreational facilities. Let's throw up metal lights and LED poles. The problem we're going to run into, and people say I'm blaming FEMA and I'm passing the buck, but the buildings are a little bit different animal because we have the insurance proceeds that hopefully we're going to get if we either arbitrate this or actually have to go to a lawsuit. When it comes to the recreational facilities that aren't insured, like light poles and stuff like that, we're trying to get some better structures so we don't have to replace wooden poles every time a storm comes. But if we'd have done that, right, I'd have just said, let's go carte blanche it and go fix everything, right? What's going to happen is in a year and a half or 2 years when we start to ask FEMA for these reimbursements, FEMA's going to go, well, you didn't follow public bid law, you didn't put the federal provisions in the contract, you didn't follow procurement guidelines for architects and engineers, and we would have not been reimbursed that money, right? And whether I'm in this chair, whoever's in the chair, somebody's going to sit up here and say, well, that young punk went and squirreled away and screwed away a bunch of money, now the parish is out $10 million. I'm just as frustrated that it's taken 2 years for us to get any of this, right? The DA's office roof is going on. The roofs in Galliano and here should start in the next couple of weeks. We hopefully, I told Mitch today, especially in South Lafourche, the engineers are close on some of these light poles. If FEMA's kind of on the fence and we think we're going to get the money, then let's just go out to bid. Because I'm tired of waiting. But I'm not going to put the parish in a financial bind for me, you guys, whoever else comes behind us, that we may not get reimbursed on some of this stuff. So I just want to be very clear that it's not intentional. It's not district related, north, south. To Mr. Daniel's point a lot, it takes time, but it shouldn't take forever. I got you there, Daniel. But I can't move the process any faster than what we're moving it, especially when we're dealing with contractors. Look, one of our projects, the person we're dealing with at GOSEP is stationed in Puerto Rico and she's working from home. Like, how do we deal with that? There's no face-to-face contact there. A lot of these CRC people we're dealing with at FEMA are Denton, and we're doing this stuff over Zoom. And while we've made some progress, it's just very difficult. And I know it's a very long-winded answer, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, but I think the public needs to know that it's not intentional, and it's not making any of us happy. Any of us sitting behind me or the men and women from the engineering or the architect side who are working on this stuff. It's a pain in the butt.
Yeah, so I can vouch for because people say, well, it's an exceptionally slow process, and I would disagree with that, because it's a very fast process going in circles. For a year and a half, I've been moving really fast every day, going in a circle. For a year and a half, I've talked to FEMA or GOSEP every single day. It's a year and a half. And while I've made progress on one side, I haven't made any. But I would challenge you if there are some constraints, such as, and I've tried to work with the coroner's office, and so Mitch, I know y'all mentioned about there could be some issues where we got to figure something out. Anywhere I can intervene and assist, please engage me, because I don't want there to be any slowdown on that side. Mr. Groh.
Okay, I have a question. So I have a resident, but physical address is in the city of Thibodaux, but the back of the property is actually on the parish line, okay? She contacted Garrett Graves' office, so I was contacted from them Friday, spoke to him again today, and I sent it to the city of Thibodeau mayor, but I think we may need to get involved. I'll send it to you. If they have a tree on a servitude that has energy stuff underground, the tree's about to fall. It's like 8 years ago, they've gotten it trimmed over the years, but I guess with this recent storm, I've gotten a few calls for trees down. Y'all, we do weatherization, we do different things. Are y'all aware of any kind of program that can help the elderly remove a tree that's about to fall in their house and it's on an energy servitude? Should I send it to Stacy with energy? We might have some kind of...
Yeah, well, we used to deal with this all the time when I was at the city too, Mr. Grant. People used to laugh, but I call them Jesus trees, right? Because the parish didn't put them there, the homeowner didn't put them there, so the only person left was Jesus. And it's kind of like to Mr. Belvin's point where we got to go trim trees for campers, right? To me, and in this case, it's a little different because it's an elderly resident, but those are somebody's trees. They should go trim them, right? We're taking government services and government time to go trim a tree so somebody can put their camper underneath. That's not our tree. And I get it. We're here to serve the public, and we suck it up and do it a lot of times. But we could look around, but I don't think community action.
It's a sad. You talk to
Jerry,
everybody's got a story, but it is rotten. Arborist told it needs to come down. They're not even using part of their house. Like they on oxygen or whatever. They can't even use. They're scared to sleep in the back room.
So just out of curiosity, and I don't want to call out Thibodeau Volunteer Fire Department, but in Lockport, we've done training sessions. We removed lots of trees, many trees, Bayou-side Park, as part of our training. So that may be an option to try to rally some troops to get that done on the volunteer side. That's also protected by, they would also be protected by their insurance, if it's a training session at that location.
That's an awesome idea.
One option.
Give y'all Fatburger and some Farmer's Punch if y'all can.
Still try. When FEMA quits beating me up. Look, true story, and I'll say it quick, because I keep saying this thing about neighbor versus neighbor, and it's true. 75% of our complaints are neighbor versus neighbor. But, I still have instances. I had one last week, a lady under hospice care needed to be moved from one room to the other. So put a call out, and you know what? Neighbors showed up in droves to come and help me to move that lady who I did not know. So we still have good people out there that still will take initiative at certain points. Ms. Chesson.
I just want to touch on, maybe piggyback what Archie was talking about with the FEMA and all. Saturday, I got to speak with Chief Devin Didon about the fire stations in the south area. And he's fighting the same battles with the insurance company, with the FEMA, and I know they work in hand, along with Mr. Lloyd Guidry, who's director of Lady of the Sea Hospital. So where they're trying to figure out this whole FEMA process as well, this is what's holding up getting our fire stations back in place. It's FEMA, it's the insurance, and Devin's doing the best he can to keep it together. But yeah, it's difficult.
And look, I'll say too, Mr. Chairman, with the weird thing about FEMA is that they will not even begin to discuss buildings like fire stations and hospitals until you exhaust the insurance issues. So if you're caught in an insurance litigation that could take years, FEMA's never going to give you the money to do it either until that's exhausted. So it gets very, very frustrating, and you know it very well from the fire.
Oh, yeah,
It's crazy.
not being very clear on procurement policies and what they want, and they're asking for the same thing 20 times. Mr. Lorraine.
Yes, it seems like they're starting to pick up FEMA trailers. I've seen quite a few of them disappearing. Some of the people were not happy with that, but I guess they made that call. And I noticed in La Rose at the shopping center, there's not as many FEMA campers. Some of them are gone. Some of them, very few are still there, but they're there. But what really bothers me is you got the RV park in my district on 3235 that was built a year after Ida, and they got about 30 trailers in there. And they had a shootout there last night. And it's been nothing but trouble. So how long are those trailers going to stay there? FEMA can't pull that out? That needs to be taken out and put back the way it was. They don't deserve to have a whole trailer park built and paid for by the federal government. You got 30 trailers in there, at least 30. Why are they not moving those?
So, Mr. Chairman, as far as we know from our conference calls with FEMA, all of the FEMA trailers that have been moved are people who have reached a point where they can move back into their house or they found some other permanent structure. So I will tell you, if you have specific examples, come talk to me. We can look at them case by case. If they've taken one from somebody who was not ready to get out of them, then I really need to know about that, because nobody's called me and told me that. Now,
Well, I
I've
could
gotten
tell you, I hear it.
So I've gotten some calls where people have said, FEMA called and said we had to be out by August 31st.
Right.
And I take those and I send them off, and they tend to be just a misunderstanding with the company who's calling. They have caseworkers who are working the system because they're trying to get people back into their permanent housing. They're pushing really hard because they want to get the trailers out of here. They either need them somewhere else. I don't really want them here during storm season because it's going to cause an evacuation nightmare, and we've talked about that before. But if you do have certain examples of people where they've been taken, then please tell me. Send me their names and their numbers and let us reach out to them.
Yes, some people get a break, some don't, okay? But I'm talking about this trailer park that was put a year after in my district, and not one trailer has moved out of there. And there's trouble every night.
So a majority of the people who are still in Rouse's, who are still in the group sites, like at Jean Bon's, at Peterson Lane, all of those places, a majority of those people are still renters. Those are people who are in apartment complexes or something that haven't been rebuilt yet. They really have no place to go. They didn't have a yard to put it in, so we had to figure out some place to give them housing.
I understand that, Archie, but you got some people that's living in there that were forced out elsewhere. So why are they getting special treatment?
Forced out elsewhere how? Tell me. What are you talking about?
I know some that they picked up their trailer and they were still trying to get into their house.
Okay, well, that's what I'm saying. If you have those, send them to me. Give me their names and their phone numbers, and we can dig into it with FEMA as to why that trailer was taken. I don't know those. I've never gotten.
So you're telling me for me to tell them to call you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But I'm still going to disagree with that trailer park that's there. Nothing's moving out of there.
That's what I'm saying, Daniel. The people who are in that little group site are probably renters, where they don't have anywhere else to
All you got to do is call the sheriff's office and see how many times they go there. Something bad is going to happen there, and it started last night.
Okay.
Thank you,
So-
Mr. Lorraine.
I don't have any control of that, but
Any additional questions for the administration? General discussion. Item P, discussion.
I got one.
Mr. Grove.
I just wanted to, obviously, we voted in, term limits, but obviously Acadia Gas doesn't have that. I want to congratulate Jerry Jones. One of my spies told me he worked there 50 years last week. 50 years. Congratulations.
Mr. President?
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of things. We've been going back and forth with, I know some of your constituents are probably, especially in Daniel and DeLynn, maybe some of yours, Mr. Chairman, in the Terrys and Jims, have applied to the Restore Louisiana Fund to help rebuild their stuff. We've got a couple of calls from constituents who have said there have been some discrepancies between elevations, like what the permit office has given them and what the state's telling them they have to been to. We found out today that FEMA is actually telling these residents that they have to do 2 foot of freeboard, so they're having to go 2 foot above whatever the BFE is. That's some new FEMA requirement. So if you get any calls about that, that's been the discrepancy. We're trying to deal with it on our end, so we know when people come in with restore permits that we have to give them the elevation +2 to meet the FEMA requirement. We had one guy who didn't realize that when he drove his pilings or lifted his house, he was 2 foot too short, and now FEMA's giving him some issues. So if you hear any of those, again, tell them to call me. And finally, I just want to congratulate Mr. Jones as well, but congratulate Ms. Gracie Pepper, who's the new Farm Bureau 2023 Queen. Was installed. Her reign started Saturday night at the 101st Farm Bureau Convention. Took us 101 years to get a queen from Lafourche, but we finally did it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
But don't you, that would only be if they're getting assistance from FEMA. If they decide to build something on their own, pay for it.
They can build to the BFE. It's
That's
only
what
if
I'm
they do the
saying.
restore
It's
stuff.
only if they're getting some money from FEMA, they have to follow the FEMA guidelines.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
No further discussion. Item Q, adjournment. We got a motion on the floor by Ms. Shelson, second by Mr. Jones. With no further business, Lafourche Parish Council regular meeting of June 27, 2023 will be adjourned at 19:30 hours. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absence, absence being Councilman Adams. Still ain't that bad. Felt like it was. It wasn't.
You is the man.
I feel like we've been here for like one of the meetings where we're here till 9, but it's only.
It's not even 8 o'clock.
Thank you, bro. How was it only 7:30? It felt like a meeting that lasted till 9. I can't believe nobody said nothing about LSU. I thought for sure somebody was gonna say, "Oh, Tigers." Huh? Yeah, but come on, man.
They did wonderful. It'll be
But I like
hard to have
Alabama.
a team that good again. That was superstars.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I was gonna say no on that bullshit. You know what? Because civil service is gonna be woke now. W-O-K-E woke. The Yankees, every city he mentioned, liberal. So you voted right, though. Congratulations.
Well, this has been, I've been.
Let's call in, they'll get their chromosomes confused.